It's always worked before, so I'm assuming it's going to work this time as well. I think I
Mm.
think we are live right now. Let's make sure everybody can hear us. So if you're watching the stream, chat, please let us know if you can hear us. And then we can start welcoming everybody to the Stormkeep live. We haven't done one of these in a while. I think the last one we did was December. We were talking about the Flesh Eater Battle Tome, and
Yes.
we've been a little lacking in videos lately, haven't we?
Well, there's not much to talk about, but hopefully this Battlescroll, and then we did the Flesh Eater Courts review, and then hopefully this Battlescroll shakes things up to where we can do a tier list again. Maybe we can do a Lords of the Storm, see if we unlocked any new lists for us, and then
Yeah.
we'll have a lot to talk about. Hopefully March, because that's when Adepticon is, and hopefully that is when we will get a sneak peek at what's coming in June. So
Hopefully, yeah. All signs point to a new edition this summer, which is going to be very exciting because Stormcaster and probably going to be in the starter box, right? It would be
no, it's Age of Sigmar. They have to be. It's Age of Sigmar.
yeah.
So yeah.
So that would be weird if they weren't. And there's been a lot of rumors hinting to what might be coming this summer. But there's a lot of stuff we could still talk about before then, right? Like we've wanted to do a lot of different videos. The last couple months have been really busy, so we didn't really get around to them, unfortunately. But this is a good opportunity, and it's good. Like anytime there's a battle scroll, it kind of gets you more excited about the game and getting back into it and talking about it.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was a bit of a preamble. So hello everybody, welcome to the Stormkeep. My name is Paul, and today I'm joined by my good friend Mergonk. Mergonk,
Hey there.
apparently the best Stormcast player in the world now. Congratulations.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Jesus.
Well, you were
Not
top
even.
top 5 in the world on ITC.
I don't know. I don't check those things. Like it's like people tell me about those, and I'm like, I don't care. Like I don't. That's not why I go to events. Like it's not something that really matters to me too much. The only thing like was like, okay, like I remember last year. I think there was like some this apparently. So at LVO, there's like two separate like trophies. There's the best in faction for the event and best in faction for the whole season. Right? I didn't collect either of them because like I don't check my rankings. So I was like someone else took a picture of like the slideshow. I was like, "Oh wait, you should go collect." I'm like, "Oh wait, no,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
already
I
out of the
remember
account."
that. I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So I don't check those even live. So like I didn't collect my trophies for those either. So it's like whatever. Yeah.
How you doing, chat? You're here with the humblest Stormcast player in the world.
No, I mean I don't think that's true either, but like just I'm not the best. Like in fact, like if once we tell you about my matchups, I think I'm lucky more than anything.
Well, when you come down to visit this summer, we'll find out who the best is.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Yeah.
How you doing, chat? Currently blazed. Nice to see you, buddy. I saw you waiting in the chat earlier. Sorry if we woke you up. And MacTac is here. That's good. That's good to have MacTac here. That's fortuitous. We will talk about the Painting Ionus contest later. Um, Melcorius says, I don't get why people in rankings in a game of dice where you spend months to build, paint, and collect an army. Yeah, that's a big part of it, right?
Rankings are very human nature. We like the top 10, the top 5. I mean, go look at like just about anything. What are the top 5 armies in Warhammer? What are the top 5 paints, the top 5 airbrushes, the top 10 units? It's like it's human nature. And so I understand people with a competitive spirit. It's like, people have liked seeing their names on leaderboards ever since they picked up like a first multiplayer video game or watched, a sports league. So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's whatever that feeling is, it's probably propagating. But honestly, like as someone who like I used to be a lot into sports, like especially like Manchester United and soccer, but it's like I think I've just grown out of that. So like rankings, like it's like whatever. I don't really care.
It's also that we like stories, right? People like making stories out
Mm.
of anything. Like, I don't really watch many sports, but whenever you do, it's always the announcers are always talking about, oh, this is his 10th game doing this, or the world record is this, and he's this close to it. Like, people just like stories, and we like making connections with data points, and it gets you more invested, and it's more fun.
Absolutely, yeah.
Ooh, building a Stormcast arm for my first army. Pretty stoked about it. That's sick, dude. Let us know what you're building.
That's awesome.
Hopefully there's Dracolines in it. I'm such a sucker for Dracolines, man. They're so good.
Yeah, they're underrated. I don't see anyone else running them, and they should. I think they're very good. But even that just moving, being able to move 12 and deliver like up to like 4 to 5 mortal wounds to something alongside a bunch of attacks is really good.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's because like maybe people compare them to fulminators too much, and they try to put them into like armor targets, and that's where they don't shine.
But they do very
Also, the
similar
nature,
damage to fulminators without having to
yeah, but
charge.
it's sure, but it's like if when I'm fighting like tree lords, for instance, which happened to me, it's like a bunch of those are in a 3-up save. They're gonna go to a 2-up. That feels pretty bad when you're engaging with Dracolines.
I
But
can see
it's
that.
like most of the time, the way our army wants to engage anything is we want to attack it in 2 different phases, 3 if possible.
Hmm.
So then never, no one's ever fighting alone. But yes, Dracolines alone into something would feel pretty bad, unless it was like a screen or something.
Andreas says, "Hey guys, first time with you live. Might not be able to stay up for the full 7 hours. Sorry."
Oh Jesus! Yeah, don't. This is not. Yeah, but we'll try to speed
I
things up.
cut
All
the
right,
tier list. I
let's
cut
go
the tier
past.
list
Let's
out
go.
this time.
All right,
Okay.
let's.
So, welcome everybody. Especially thank you to our sponsor, Kaiju Gaming Lounge. They've been sponsoring us for, oh gosh, it's been over a year now, right? I really like
Mhm.
working with them. They give us all the prizes for our contest. They're super great guys, and I have a lot more news to share about them in the near future. But there's some exciting stuff happening with Kaiju. So, yeah, they're located in Florida. You can use code Stormkeep to get 15% off all Warhammer purchases. They'll ship anywhere in North America. And if you're outside of North America, you just got to DM Carl on Discord and he'll take care of that. And they sell our merch. We've got these cool looking dice, which have a fancy little symbol made by John Corbs. And this was before he even joined the podcast team. He just made us a cool symbol. So we printed it on some dice. And then we've got these very fancy looking 7-inch, 9-inch rangefinders. So if you're using stuff like Annihilators, they are just a stylish way to play the game. So check them out, kaijugaminglounge.com. Especially if you guys have seen what the prizes are for next month's painting contest, definitely give Kaiju a shout because they've come out big for us this time. All right, let's talk about Las Vegas Open 2024. So I'm going to start on this slide instead. This is a better intro slide, talking about how many players were present and the experience level of the players. So LVO is the final capstone event for the ITC year, like the yearly season. It starts at the first event after LVO, and then LVO is the final event. I'm correct about that, right? I'm not crazy.
I think so.
Okay,
I think it. Yeah, it caps off the season. I'm pretty
right.
sure. Yeah.
So there's usually like a weird mix of people, of like players who just happen to be in the California area and just pop in and or not California, but Nevada, right? People who just want to go
Around Colorado,
more. Yeah,
California,
yeah.
Nevada. Yeah, more West Coast people than East Coast for sure.
Yeah, people who just want to show up and play games. But as you can see on the second chart here, courtesy of wohammer.com, thanks a lot for providing these guys. Most of the crowd is actually really experienced at the game. Like going to 11 events over the past couple of years, like that's a real dedication to the game. Like most of the player base going to this event are skilled players, experienced players, people who are really dedicated to the game. It's great that there's lots of new people going too, and casual players as well. But I'm just trying to preface with what kind of event this is, right? This isn't like a random GT in a store somewhere. Like this is a big event. People take it relatively seriously. It's the last of the ITC events. It's the last chance to score. And if you care about that kind of thing, I know you don't, Mergonk, but some people do. So if you're looking to score some extra points in the ITC, this is like the final event to do it. And this year we had 347 players, which is an absurd amount. The fact that they actually had to have shadow rounds to have a top 8 and then play 8 rounds of Warhammer total to figure out one winner. Like, gosh, that's too much Warhammer. That's too many games.
It's worse if it's 40K. 40K is doing 3 days of 3 matches each. Like they're paying like 8 or 9 rounds before they even get to the top 8. Yeah, it's getting insane, and like given the game's popularity, it's only going to get worse. So
yeah, we got to figure out some way to solve this problem. I like Halo's suggestion. Just everybody who 5-0s gets a trophy, and then there's no. That's it. That's the end. Go home, everybody.
Yeah.
You all did well. So yeah, what was present at LVO? Well, mostly what was expected, based on if you've been playing the game the last, let's say 6 months since about last summer. We were expecting a lot of Gits, a lot of Blades of Khorne, Slaves to Darkness, and Stormcast are always popular armies, whether they're strong or weak, they're always present. We were expecting Bone Reapers. Sylvaneth just got Belthanos, so people were expecting Belthanos to show up in every list, and I think he pretty much did.
pretty much did.
Yeah.
Maybe I think one list or two lists weren't running him, but out of the 17, I think pretty much most of them were.
Yeah. Seraphon, I expected more Seraphon and more Caradron personally.
Nah, Seraphon in an age of OBR being popular is a mistake.
Maybe. But Seraphon's
And no,
always,
not only OBR, but Corn. My bad. Corn's the other one.
yeah. Starborn I could see, but like Coalesced is always a popular army. You're never going to go to an event and see zero Coalesced players. There's always going to be some. Some people just really want to play dinosaurs with laser beams. So
They're good, but again, like we mentioned, their ability is so polarizing that in the
yeah.
matchups where it doesn't do anything, you are going to just not like them at all, the way they play.
Yeah, and even in matchups where it does help, there's still enough damage out there to get through. Like they're only 14 wound monsters. It's not
Yeah.
that difficult to kill them.
And most of the non-monster dudes are what, 4-up saves, I think, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
nothing major going on there.
Yeah. So Coalesced is not a strong meta choice right now. Could be in the right circumstances, right? That -1 damage is either the best thing in the game or completely useless. So somewhere in the middle, right? I was expecting more Big Wa as well. We had 12 Big Wa players. I thought it would be more popular. I assumed everybody bringing orcs would just play Big Wa instead. But it seems like there were some people still bringing Iron Jaws and Cruel Boys, and Cruel Boys definitely surprised me. 2 different 5-0 lists, which is very, very good. I did not.
I think because they were anticipating shooting. I think they were anticipating lots of magic and lots of shooting, either from KO or from cities. Now that the cities book was legal for this tournament, and so people get scared of Fusiliers, and so Big Wall actually dies to Fusiliers pretty hard. Like things just like you will just nuke Gordrak off the board turn 1. Any like major unit, like 2-3 units a turn, you get Unleash Hell, you get the pressing fire, you have Cavaliers to back you up, Command Core to shut you down. So I think for that, Cool Boys is like actually a pretty good pick because they don't use a lot of commands. Their dirty tricks are not commands abilities. They have more wounds. You can't see them beyond 12. So
yeah, the no visibility thing is huge into most matchups that involve any kind of range damage, spells, or shooting. I'm always underestimating it because Stormcast have the easiest time playing around that ability. Like we are just like the natural predator to Cruel Boys. It's hilarious.
I think most people do. I think like there can be a weird way where if they get a key double, they can swing it against Stormcast. Like Cruel Boys doesn't have a hard time beating Stormcast, but like the way you pick them apart is you have to force them to go different directions. You can't engage them in the center. You have to engage the flanks and force them to commit to either side.
And it's very doable for us because we've got the mobility and we've got the ranges and we shoot first. Stormcast are the army that always shoots first. So it's not that tough for us. But against other armies, like if Caradron have to get it within 12 inches in order to shoot, it's actually pretty easy to screen out your Bolt Boys so that they can just never be shot. And then you just pour in tons of mortal wounds to get through those 2-up saves. So
yeah, plus I mean now we have comments, so it's like that's like the natural predator to Cruel Boys. It's like drop 2 comets, 3 comets in there.
Especially that's comets. Yeah. Comets are they're just waiting for this event to happen. Like we'll talk about that soon.
Yeah. But otherwise, fairly what I expected. Gloomspite gets, like I'd heard that it was a very popular army. So I'm glad to see there were a lot of gets out. Most of the lists, some were people even trying, Troggett spam. But I think most lists were going like 30 bounders.
Yeah, I think Gits are another one of those armies where they're always going to be popular no matter how strong or weak they are. Because people just love the models.
It's a silly faction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a silly faction. Yep.
Yeah,
it's like Gargants. It's like Gargants is always like fairly popular, no matter what.
Whereas stuff like Ideneth and Nurgle, you can see them drop off to like 0 players if they're not a strong enough army. People will just bring a different army instead. There's some dedicated fans of those armies, but it's just different. Some people just like dinosaurs with lasers. Some people just like silly mushroom monsters. It's a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the field. That's pretty much what we expected. And the second consideration was the battle plans, right? So we're going back to this slide here. Round 1 was Power Flux. Round 2 was Fountains of Frost. Round 3 was Lines of Communication, then Limited Resources, and Geomantic Pulse. So this is what we were preparing lists for. We were thinking, what list do we want to bring that could face off on all of these and have a favorable matchup? Like, what if you got the worst possible matchup with army on this battle plan? What if you got that matchup on this battle plan? And how would all that look? And the list you were torn on a few different lists, right?
Hmm.
You were thinking of doing like the Annihilana Grande style with Imperatant dropping in a bunch of Annihilators. I had suggested that you try out the Comet Fall list, and then there was a third list that we were considering as well. Was
We
it
were
like the
considering
Ionis
Karazai.
Shootcast? It was Karazai, yeah,
It was
yeah,
it's Karazai, yeah, because
yeah.
I think David, who's another one of our co-hosts. He runs a lot of Karazai, and he has like a fair amount of success with them.
Yeah,
Um,
that was before the errata, though, to be fair. Karazai
mhm.
is looking a lot more difficult to utilize these days because of that errata.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
But Ionis looks
And
good.
I don't think he would have done well at all. Like I think that's just so much. You cannot put that many points into like one unit
Just
competitively.
Blizzard right now kills Karazai if you don't have a Dispel
Yeah,
Scroll.
Blizzard kills Karazai. It's just, but not even Blizzard. It's like even Corn. It's like Corn just has so much going on against him. All they have to do is get Scarbrand into him and get a Brascal Meteor into him. Really.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
Wrath
not.
Axe is
It's very doable.
yeah. There's enough mortal wounds out there. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so it's
And
yeah.
then they
So
get that Argath King of Blades holder next to Karzai, so he can't even ward it off to the Praetors.
yeah, yeah. That's a big problem right now is that Praetors count as a ward. So any abilities like OBR, I think now the new Army of Renown or the new Regiment of Renown, I mean for Soul Blight, and then Korn can just shut off wards, right? So it's these
Hmm.
things just nuke Karazai. There's too many bad matchups, and he's just in general weak to shooting. And I think we are in like a ranged meta right now. So it's like part shooting,
Yes.
part magic, but it's definitely a ranged meta. Like all the top armies were ranged. The only outlier there was Korn, and
The champion.
we'll talk about why Korn made it to top eight. But even
I
that,
mean,
yeah,
yeah, like that, and like the champion army was had. I think only had Galen and Doralia Van Dance as the only range. But that's Sea Sigmar is another thing we'll talk about. But yeah, let's
hmm
talk about
so we were talking
difference.
lists just real quick. Because I think this is something that doesn't get discussed often enough is how much planning you do for which list you bring, especially in an army like Stormcast. We have so many different lists that we could bring, and it's like, well, Comet Fall did really well in this one, but it may not do exactly the same results that we'd expect in a different one.
Hmm.
But I know that on all of these battle plans, and I've tested Comet Fall on all of them, and it felt really good on every single one. Even the ones you wouldn't expect it to, like Fountains of Frost, Lines of Communication, and Pulse, because enemies can just stay away from you and then not get hit by comets round one, you'd think, oh, these are bad battle plans for this archetype. But it's actually the opposite because they have to stay so far away from you. They end up like sitting in the middle of the board for a turn, and that's the turn where you drop all your meteors, and you just destroy everything. Like if we get a double on those battle plans, it's over. Like that list just crushes so convincingly, it's crazy. So um,
Yeah, the Annihilana Grande list is actually good. Like, I don't want people to think it isn't. It's actually a good list, and I felt like I was considering taking it. I think what changed my mind were two matchups. Like it's good into KO. It's kind of good against Corn because it can maintain those ranges and then pluck out key targets with Annihilators. Um, the two matchups that changed my mind were Sylvaneth. I think Annihilana Grande has a very tough time against Sylvaneth
yeah, 2+ saves,
because of
cover.
the yeah, because you can never like kill their screens reliably because they have dryads, which are -1 to hit and wound. So you can't like just thunderbolt volley their screens off the board and then charge them with annihilators or something. Two, they have strike and fade, so like they'll always like hit you and then strike and fade behind like a screen, which is really bad for annihilators because it makes you become inefficient. Um, the second problem was Soul Blight. I had tested Annihilators into Soul Blight a lot, and what I basically was finding was if I can't shoot the heroes with my long strikes, the game is not going to go well. I'm going to get stuck fighting 40 zombies, 60 zombies, 30 skeletons, which is not something Annihilators want to be doing, right? In that army, the heroes are the engine, and I was really had no way to kill them reliably. So,
Yeah, and Cometfall is basically the same playstyle with different units, so you kind of do it a little differently.
hmm.
But the comets are just there to snipe out heroes or threaten mass AOE damage, right? And
Yes.
it's something we had always considered, even going back to our first review of the Night Vexillor with the banner. We're like, yeah, you can bring like 5 of these guys and just nuke the whole enemy army. But what if you don't have a follow up? What if you don't have like that extra little bit of damage in order to squeak out a 5-round win? What if you face something like Gargants? Um,
Back then, the points were wild too. I mean, back then we're
yes.
talking about like Evocators being 280, Annihilators being 240. Like that archetype would not have worked. There
Hmm.
wasn't just enough. Like once you took 4 Vexillors, you couldn't really take much else. Like,
Yeah.
maybe a unit of Raptors and some Fulminators or something. But yeah,
Yep. Liberators were 120 for a while there. Remember?
yeah, yeah,
Ridiculous.
like we'd
Yeah.
we'd at least be 300-400 points overboard now
But
if we tried that list back then.
it was a really close consideration between these two types of lists, either the Annihilators or Cometfall, because there's so many objectives. Like the last 4 rounds here, all of the objectives mostly are wholly outside your territory. And we thought
Mm-hmm.
questers shine here better than they're ever going to shine in any other battle pack. There's so many other battle
Yep.
plans they could have picked, and questers would just be terrible. But because questers fit into that Annihilator style, we thought, okay, this could be the place to show them. But we ended up going with a Cometfall list instead, and I think it was the right call. Ultimately, there were a bunch of Annihilator lists that kind of struggled, and we can talk about why in a bit. We'll have a special guest joining us at some point. Okay, so more stats from LVO. Just fun things, right? We're talking about the state of the game. By far the most popular grand strategy was Spellcasting Savant. 80 lists used it, and that's 80 lists out of every single faction combined. It's like one in 5 roughly, which is insane. Considering some armies just can't use it, right? Like if you don't have a general that can qualify for it. So it's like if you can use Spellcasting Savant, you're probably using Spellcasting Savant. So that's a sign that maybe the design of grand strategies isn't working properly. Maybe the book ones are too weak. Maybe this one's just too strong. But I think it's just they're all too weak.
I think that's the most reliable one because it requires you to do one thing as opposed to you having to do 3 things or 5 things. So it's literally that. If you look at the grand strategies, it's all like, am I required to do one thing? Am I required to do 3 or 4 things at once?
Yeah, there's no like
That's it.
Baron Icecape requires you to kill every hero with an artifact and prevent all enemies from being within 6 inches of the center of the field.
Yeah,
like, that's
it's like, am I gonna do one thing or 5 things? And the answer is one thing. Even if that one thing is stupid hard, you do one thing.
Yeah, and,
like,
and it's,
look at Khorne, right? Look at Khorne's the one taking Slaughter of Sorcery, and that's because most armies have average of 2 wizards, sometimes 3 or 4, depending on what army you're facing. And Khorne is like, yeah, I'm gonna kill them all. That's it.
Well, that's another reason to use the Cometfall list because it brings that unit of Evocators on Dracolines, which are a wizard which denies this grand strat. So even if they kill like the 2 wizards you have on foot, they just can't get through.
I mean, like, it's wild that Khorne just has a Comet for 2 Blood Tithe every turn, considering how cheap their chaff is. It's like, cool. We'll talk about how wild that Comet is later. But yeah. But yeah, what's really interesting is once you get past the first 2, it's literally just faction grand strategies.
Yep. And Overshadow ended up like being the second most popular one. I think that's the one we wanted to pick initially when we first started looking at the season because we thought, we don't want to run
too many things in Battle Line.
Yeah, too much. It's too much.
You fight the 16 tank list and it's like, cool. Well, I'm not getting that one.
Yeah, you don't want to limit yourself and force yourself to overextend in order to kill these things.
Yeah.
Juan Gamino, how you doing, buddy? And Fabian's coming into the chat. How you guys doing? Is that the same Fabian that you?
No, he's Fabian Barbuz. This is Fabian Brush.
Okay. Command traits. Shaman of the Chilled Lands, again, most popular one. When Spellcasting Savant is up there, you're going to see Shaman as well. So yeah, not as interesting in terms of a data point, but the fact that so many armies are using it. I know the AOS team is very concerned with universal enhancements being too popular in some cases, right? Like they nerfed Arcane Tome repeatedly because it was just too popular.
I mean, that's on them.
Yes,
they
set the metric. They decided this is what we care about, so therefore they have to make changes because that's what they care about. You can just not care.
Our book is ass. It's like what like any command trait we pick is going to like universal or seasonal is going to be better than the 4 we have. So it's like cool.
Right now we're actually at a point where we're thinking no command trait and just have Stormdrake Guard battle line. Like that's where we're at.
That's
right
viable. Now. Yeah. Like bring Karazar or Trondis as a general and then have Stormdrake Guard battle line.
Mm-hmm.
Like
saves you 100 points. Yeah.
Yeah, even if I'll tell you this, like even if the only universal command trait they had was like that Magic Eater, where you unbind a spell and on a 5-up, I take that. I take that over what we have now.
Yeah, I'm actually considering that in the next version, waiting for the Battlescroll. I'm probably going to take Eater of Magic. If we can find 10 points to fit a Deus in that list, I'm swapping to that. So. Okay, point breakdowns. This is a little another interesting data point, right? You see those 19 people at 1950? That's all gits. Like I'm pretty sure it's all.
Oh yeah, of course. Everyone wants the Inspired Triumph. Absolutely.
Yeah. So people are running lists that are like 50 to. There's one person out there running 1910. Right.
Yeah, 1910, 1920s. It's very popular in and then they like take a Warlord battalion and they double up on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can just run triumphs. Triumphs don't need to exist anymore. That's my opinion on this. I hope in the next edition they don't have them.
You should be able to get 2 of them like that.
You shouldn't be able to get any. Well, there's endless spells. There's enough granularity in the points.
Okay, like if you're like doing like okay, so like if you're hamstringing yourself army like that, I mean they're not really doing it, but technically they're hamstringing themselves by losing 80 points like that. But you shouldn't let people double like. Remember when AOS allowed that whole thing where you could buy a command point for 50 points?
Yeah, that was
It's
terrible.
that. It's yeah, like one is okay. If you want to do one, that's fine. Once you start like allowing people to do multiple, it's a problem.
When there's 30-point endless spells and 20-point endless spells, and there should be, and I think it's good. I don't think we need triumphs anymore. I think we should just get rid of the whole system. Just ditch it. People should
Yeah,
try to bring as close to 2K as possible.
I wouldn't mind that.
All right, so I'm going to text John here, and we will hopefully get him in the stream.
Explain.
Because John took this list that we were talking about, like the 7-inch Scions list, and he did some different things with it. So you see, it's still got the typical Annihilators with Grand Hammers. It's got Questers. He went Astral Templars so they could have 2 units of Vanguard Hunters to really secure battle tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got 2 weird things in here that we normally wouldn't do. And he's got Sevireth and Celestant Prime.
I will say Sevireth is not that weird. I think Sevireth's a good pick here.
He's getting more popular.
I've been considering. Yes, he is the. If you cannot, so I've been playing this list like some version of Annihilators for like 3 years, and like Vanguard Raptors as a tool to pick off key heroes was like very much a thing I did. Like turn 1, I wouldn't even drop Annihilators. I would just snipe your heroes or something and be like, make you come forward, and then I would drop them behind your lines, on your sides, whatever. If Sevireth can just go out, kill a hero, and destroy a terrain piece, like if it can destroy the Loon Shrine, earned its value right there.
Mm-hmm. Until you have to snipe a 7-wound hero, and then you fail to smash the terrain, and Sevireth dies, accomplishing nothing.
Well, yeah, dice is dice, right? But he's effectively like, when I think of him, I used to have 2 units of Raptors and an Aetherwing unit. He's effectively taking the spot of the second Raptor in the Aetherwing unit. So it's not, points wise, it's not like too inefficient. Celestin Prime is the take that I probably would disagree with here. I would have just gone for like 4 Tempesters in his stead. You know, made some changes to like try to fit that in, like more shooting in. I think the Prime. I think he whiffs harder than Sevireth sometimes for me. Because the hitting on 3s part, unless if you can't all out attack him, it's not worth it.
Yeah, Celestin Prime would be so much better if he was like 60 points cheaper. In Stormcast lists, he'd see a lot more play.
That's the thing, he can't be. He literally cannot be because of the stupid ally thing. Like, can you imagine a 250 Celestin Prime in Sylvaneth, or like a 250 Celestin Prime in like Cities of Sigmar with already has Command Core and all that shooting going for it? Like, it's wild.
We just need a rule that unique units can't be allies. That's all.
I would just ditch allies as a concept. Just have Regiments Arena out like they're doing now.
Okay, I could see that, and just have coalition then.
Yeah, coalition and allies. You know, whatever factions have coalition, you keep it. But then the only allies you can bring are other regiments, and there's plenty of them now, and they're good. Like the recent ones are good. Like that ones are good.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff Celestin Prime does that I like. Guaranteed charges are really good for led into the Maelstrom. Being able to pin down something, even if you don't kill it, right? Like you charge, get the guaranteed charge out of reserve, and then you pile in towards something. Oh, there he is. Hey, John. Joining us from the golf course. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. So we're talking about your list. In particular, the main differences from how we normally build a list like this would be Sevireth and Celestin Prime. So what are your thoughts on those 2 inclusions?
Yeah, so the Celestin Prime was an interesting choice. That essentially I had this model that was 60% painted for a year and a half. And I had done a pretty good job on it, and I just really wanted to finish it up. But I was like, he is good enough for competitive play. He's not great. We all know that points-wise he's too much. We know that he's a bit problematic. But I was kind of like, you know what, I'm going to try playing him, bringing him down turn 2. I think the 5 attacks is enough. And he's just going to be this other threat that's not on the board right away. And that's a lot of like how I built this list, was everything's deployed super far away. There's really nothing on the board of any value. I don't really care if I go first or second. And essentially, you know, I have these missiles that I can drop in. I also built it to play with the battle tactics for this year. So like it scored actually very, very well on both grand strategy and battle tactics. And on top of that, the damage output was quite good. And Sevireth, once you get good at his play, is an incredible piece. So I was using him almost primarily to just harass and sometimes snipe out heroes, but then also bringing him in to get that -1 to hit, and then sort of like pulling him out of combat range. like I was doing that from time to time. It was kind of really useful. And then by turn 3 or 4, like the the opponent was often so annoyed with Severus that by turn 3 they were like going after him. But at that point, I had kind of used him for what I needed to use him for, so I kind of like secretly didn't mind that. So I put him in like weird places that were kind of close enough for them to go to him, but were like in the backfield or like on the side. So that was pretty cool. He's also great. His shooting attack is great to sort of combo with some long strikes. That can be like quite effective. And it just starts to add more and more chip damage. I'd say, go ahead.
It sounds like you've really embraced the idea that everything's disposable in a Stormcast army, which, I mean, that's where we were in second edition, and that's where we've come back to in third edition. It's very difficult.
That happens every edition.
Yeah,
I think that happens every edition. Like there are times where we switch from being defensive castle mode to offensive castle mode.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And we're just all over the board in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Sweet. Okay, well, let's talk about your matchups, man. Because you said damage wasn't a problem,
sure.
and after beating Gitz and Behemoth, I believe you. Like, and those are the tough ones.
I was there because I finished my match early, and I saw him against Gargants. I'm like, "How are you beating this army?" And he's like, "He was."
Oh, I smashed the Gargants army.
Yeah, dude, he absolutely creamed them.
So here's the thing: it nails it on grand strategy. I got it, I think, every time.
Mm-hmm.
Battle tactics very high. It can do a lot of them, even the book ones. Damage output incredible. The one weakness is, as we can all imagine where this is going to go, is having 2 units of annihilators. Out of the 10 charges in the tournament, I missed 2 of them. So that's the 20%, right?
Just rolling that on a charge. That's the weakness.
They were both critical.
What you should do next time
for the game
is you should head over to my table, call me, right, and then
I
I come over, and I roll your annihilator charges, and then I go back, and that's it.
Yeah. So literally, like, it lost me one of the games. The other one, not for sure, but certainly was really important to do, and I didn't do it. So, yeah, we can talk about the matchups.
Yeah. So Gitz.
Actually, I want to hear about your Ogre Mod Tribes matchup. That's, I think, even for Common Fall, that list, when you fight monster trucks, it's a little hard. So like, what did you fight? What did you think?
Yeah. So I got a great matchup, to be honest. All my games were actually quite good matchups, except for the Ogre one, and not because I didn't have the damage to do it. I had learned from the last tournament and really tried to bring enough damage to do it. However, once again, it was on one of the missions where there's only 3 points, and they count as 10 on each one.
Mm-hmm.
I was given first. I needed to destroy 2 of them. I left 1 on 15 wounds with 1 wound remaining, and I missed the charge on the other one from the Annihilators. That was turn 1. So it was a very difficult matchup from that point on. Yep. I believe had I been able to take out the first 2, and there would only be 4 remaining, especially given their like bird attack and all that stuff, I would have been in a far better situation. But that didn't happen. So that game, from that point on, there isn't all that much more to say about it. It was still a great game. We played out most of it, but yeah, it was not gonna come my way after. The Gitz list, which was mostly, I don't have it in front of me, but you guys have it. It was mostly like Trug was in there, and then there was a lot of trolls. It was a great list. It was super fun to play against. But again, like that one strategically in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna just harass with Severus, and then turn 2, go out and smash to rubble the Loon Shrine. And it's funny because I got there, I think I gave him the double into turn. Like I think I won the priority and gave it to him because I didn't have that much on the table. That's something I tried to do a lot actually with this list, because I didn't have enough on the table that it really mattered. So I actually wanted to give it away where possible. So I believe I gave it away, and then I had turn 2, I went to smash for rubble, and then I rolled a 2 on the smash to rubble. So I've got like Severus in their back lines. I've fucked up the smash to rubble, and I'm like, oh God. But lucky enough, I got the
Told
double.
you.
I got priority. Yeah, and then I was able to take it out on the third turn, which was a huge relief. And then with my damage output, like that was basically it. Like, he had that general that has like a ward, but it goes away at some point. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Do you mean the
Oh yeah, it's
Gobblapalooza?
if he has like a little token that like a goblin. If he rolls a 1 on it, if he ever rolls a 1 on his ward, it goes away.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
so he rolls the ward and then he has to, yeah, if he rolls a 1, it goes away. So that happened about like, I don't know, very quickly because I was just throwing
Yeah, I mean
everything at it.
you
And
roll
then,
1-1 to start. It's over.
yeah, and then Trug. I didn't fight Trug till near the end. He was the last thing remaining, and I just surrounded him. And I think he was tabled. I think it was turn 3, probably after my double, or turn 4. That was a great match to start off the day. Then
What was the Stormcast mirror like? What
went
were they playing?
to Gargant's, and that was just like, you know, the same old rules, like try to kill 1 per turn. Bit
John, you're cutting out.
more of an interesting game for us. Like I had the exact same list as I had Prime, and unfortunately, you got me.
Yeah, we hear you now.
Yeah, just
You're
a
good.
second. Okay.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, he set up. I gave him first because we had the same amount of drops, I believe, or he had 1 more than me. I think he had acolytes. And what happened was basically he set up. I told him to go first. He moved his screen forward and left a 9-inch gap to the side.
Oh,
Yeah. And you know, I was kind of like, oh man, like I noticed it, like just after his movement phase, and I was like, oh shit. So then I took my turn and dropped Annihilators in, killed his Imperator turn 1, and he had everything still in the sky. 2 Grand Hammers. Yeah, exactly. So that was basically it at that point. He tried to do a similar thing in my back line, just like sort of YOLOing it, but he couldn't roll the 11 or whatever, 12. But at that point, and you know what? He was a really good player. Like he kind of kept it alive in a really interesting way. The way he dropped everything down, he kept everything until the end of turn 3. He gave me, I think, the
Did you
double
fight
at
Joshua?
3, and then
Was this Joshua Bradford?
I'm not sure. I can't remember the names.
It was
but
a
he was
big guy with glasses.
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
no. Yeah, he's really good
was,
too. That must have crushed him.
He was very good. Like the way that he was able to play the rest of the game and just keep it competitive.
Yeah.
Was very good. Like I was actually kind of surprised how much of a game it ended up being. So that was, you know, small mistakes. Like it happens. I had to take advantage of it, obviously. Especially in a matchup like that where it's really like, I think had he made me go first or whatever, like I think the priority really made the difference.
Yeah, I think priority really matters. I can't believe he left that gap up because I think his list had I want to say it had 2 Annihilators, it had 4 Tempesters, it had a unit of 6 Raptors, like a straight up unit of 6 Raptors.
Yeah. He was playing the list that I had actually sort of brainstormed a little bit. Paul and I had talked about a little bit, which is the better list in some ways. Like mine's a bit more like fun and risky. His was a bit safer, and I think, yeah, again, the positioning was the mistake.
That's very unfortunate. Damn.
Good for him for sticking it through, losing your Imperator in round 1 to a mistake. Like that would tilt so many players, and they would just quit immediately.
Yeah,
totally.
No, he's a good sport. Like, I think something similar happened to him. I think this was when he was playing the Galatian champion with 10 protectors and the fight first Quicksilver amulet, and he forgot that he could trigger Quicksilver amulet on the offense instead of just defense. And so like I look at him staring across at my 15 Hearthguard, and I go, "Hey, do you not want to charge me?" And he's like, "No, it's fine. I'm not going to charge you." And I'm like, cool. Because I reminded him, I'm like, cool. Because that's what I think he was like telegraphing he was going to do. So I was like, hey, you want to charge here? And he didn't do it. And then on my turn, he goes, oh, wait, I can use Quicksilver Amulet offensively, can I? I'm like, yeah. And so it was just, yeah, it's unfortunate. Damn.
Yeah, but he was definitely able to like max score as much as possible. Like he played the objectives quite well. So you know that was a fun game for me, probably more so.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fourth game, or sorry, that was game 4. That was game 4. The third game was the monster trucks, which we talked about.
Yep.
Sorry, Paul, you had a question?
Oh, I wanted to know how much Astral Templars helped you in the Sons of Bahamut matchup and the Ogre Montrose matchup, because that's pretty much why we're using it, right? Is to like these two things in particular. When you bring a lower damage list, not just being immune to all the rampages is really, really useful. So how much did it impact your games there?
It helped in the Sylvaneth one as well that we'll talk about in a second. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot. Mm-hmm. It was great. I loved it. I loved having it. It helps with the battle line, having the hunters. They're critical for battle tactics. But yeah, no, it's great. It's great to just tell them like, hey, you can't do that. Obviously with monster trucks, they can still do their like flyover one. So I'm always very clear with them about that. Like, this is what you can do and this is what you can't do. Because I want to set it right from the beginning so we're not like, you know, all over the place. But people are always surprised by it, and the difference it makes is huge, because when we get, you know, as Stormcast on 3s, and then we get to all out defense every time against a monster, it's great.
You're always on 2s.
Fantastic.
With Celestial Prime always hitting on 2s is really good. Like, being able to all out attack with him.
Yeah.
And then you can stick him in cover, give him Finest Hour, +1 save. Like, he actually can pin stuff down pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he gets
cover.
Forget about that.
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
He gets covered.
He's pretty great. He did die once to like a stiff breeze, which was unfortunate. I rolled 8 miss wards in a row.
Like, 8? That hurts.
He just died.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it hurts.
It was brutal. It was like 2 attack sequences that got 4 damage through, and he just couldn't get a 3 up or whatever. It was wild. Otherwise, I think he lived through all of the games, maybe not the end of the Sylvaneth one. So when we talk about the Sylvaneth list, I think, and I think my opponent would agree, he was great. He was one of the guys that hosts one of the Battle Tech, or one of the channels that shows like games and stuff.
Season of War?
No, not Season of War. No. Those guys.
Michael Corbett. Yeah.
Yes, Michael. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should give a shout out to their channel. I forget what it is right now. That's really.
I'm gonna
we'll remember.
Battleshock Wargaming.
Put it in the description. Yes, Battleshock Wargaming. Yes. So I played him.
Go ahead and subscribe to them right now. 1 second.
Yeah, they're great. And he gave me a great little dice tray too. He was like, "Yo, here you go." So his list, like, is sort of kind of list I've played before. My strategy was, I need to give.
Oh yeah, that's my nightmare list. This is why I played Cometfall, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
Annihilators have a really hard time against this.
Yeah, you need to double, or else you're not taking out their big troops. So that was my strategy. He made me go first. Listen to this. So turn 1, I'm feeling pretty good. Turn 1, I look. He's got Durthu relatively close to a front screen. So I Thunderbolt Volley the screen, and it basically gets rid of it. I move up.
You got rid of Dryad, so the -1 to hit and wound?
Tree revs.
Yeah, well, Thunderbolt Volley. Yeah, it was tree revs. And
oh wow, okay.
And the way he had them positioned, there was only 2 left, but one of them was basically touching Durthu, like, and it was sort of he was on. He has tree revs
in his list.
Whatever it was a front screen.
He doesn't have tree revs. Okay. He has Vanguard Hunters. He has Vanguard Hunters in his list.
No, it wasn't the Hunters. No, it was the Drives.
Okay.
Then. So I killed I guess there was 10 of them. I killed 7 of them or 8 of them, but the way that they were positioned, like, there was a hole to get to Durthu.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So then I went with Severith, shot at Durthu, got 6 wounds off him or something. Shot with my all-out attack shooting round into Durthu. So I get him down to, he's got 2 wounds remaining, right?
Yeah.
Drop the Annihilators, miss the charge. And I
Oh.
Yeah. And I
Oh.
didn't do anything on the drop mortals. So
Oh my god.
And this was round 1?
yeah, it was brutal. This is turn
Battle
one.
round 1, yes. Battle round
Yeah,
turn 1, yes.
and so listen to this though, and I think this might have been the wrong call, but I chose not to engage the drop mortals. You know, when you drop on the 4-up, because I wanted to get in. I knew I would kill him with the charge mortals, and then I wanted to get back because he had his one of his other heroes right behind the tree revenant, or like the no, it was the witch. So I didn't do that, and I could have maybe killed him just with that. Anyways, I missed the charge. Don't even get in. Brutal. Like, just brutal. Like, the turn's just ruined. Played out most of the game thereafter. It was quite close. I gave him a double into turn 2, which was my strategy, and I won the priority. So I gave him double because he didn't really have anything he could do. And then I never won a priority back. Like, I never got
Yeah, that happens. Yep.
It was 3 chances, so I just couldn't do it in the end. You know what I mean? Like, it's too much.
No, yeah, you need. I've played those kinds of games, and like literally, this is gonna sound really funny. I've had a bad experience against Seraphon Coalesced before they got their new book this edition. I faced the same person on the same battle plan against the same army, playing the same army at 2 different events in round 4 of both events. And
oh man,
the game went exactly the same way both ways. He got the first double, and I tried to get a double back, and I didn't get a double the whole game, and that was it.
Oh man.
So it's, you know.
Yeah, it's tough when you play it. You play for it. You know, you're like, I'm gonna give you this double just so I can make sure I get one, and then you don't.
Yeah.
It was a great game. Otherwise, like, he was super fun to play against. So yeah, that was
if you had Celestant Prime on the table round 1 in both of those games, that 1 mortal wound was all you needed. That would have been enough.
I know. Totally.
Hard to know when to overcommit like that.
Yeah, but like this list is one of the reasons I don't take Annihilators against, because it's like you rolled pretty good on your shooting to try and clear that screen, but -1 to hidden wound is so swingy, even on Raptors. It's just like you could miss and not do anything for that turn. So.
Totally. Yeah. No, I did roll very hot. I think it was mortals. I think I rolled like 3 6s or something.
Oh yeah, that'll do it. But yeah.
So it was something like that. But all in all, I was actually really happy with how my list performed. Even like it was sort of like it had a very high chance of 4-1ing, is what I would say. And yeah, there was that last game kind of just didn't go my way, and I missed those 2 Annihilator charges in the tournament. But otherwise, it was very fun to general. It did what I wanted. It didn't really hugely disappoint, again, other than those charges. So it was pretty fun.
Nice. What did you think of the Questers? Because before you got on here, we were just talking about how we had actually considered bringing this list because Quester Soulsworn look really, really favored on all of the battle plans that were included. So what did you think of them overall?
Yeah, they're great. They did their job every game. They were great with the Gargants because I was able to take something in his zone, but like way over on the left side, like way kind of out, and he really had to decide, like, am I going to commit one of the Gargants all the way over there and never be able to get them back? And he chose not to, which I think was smart. But then I just had these guys in the back, you know, taking all the objectives away while he had to overcommit his Gargants down, and I was just taking one out every turn. So I think they're very good in with certain. They have like 2 or 3 different plays that they can do. Do you know what I mean? So like one of them is like use them as a screen and then later jump them onto an objective in the back line. Another way is to just drop them in on an objective, wait till you pull them way off on a flank, like drop on a flank objective that's in their zone, pull them away, and then teleport to another one. So they've got these little like cheeky plays you get to do with them. So they're definitely worth their points. I never find that I get them in combat all that much, which is kind of unfortunate because they have such a great profile. When they do get in combat, they can do some work, which is nice, and it always surprises people. But to be honest, I don't think I fought with them all that much.
Yeah, they're like if Vanguard Hunters had the Stormkeep rule to count as 3 models each. That's how they feel, but they're like really expensive for that role. 230 is a lot.
I honestly, Yeah, sometimes I look at them and I'm like, man, I just want another Raptor unit. You know?
Well, you know,
Yeah,
if
yeah. I think
Celestin
like I
Prime
think
could
their
be
damage
Raptors.
is yeah. It's
Yeah,
like
you're right.
I do think it could be cheaper. I think Quester Soulsworn could probably because the role for that unit is an objective taker that does more damage than like a straight up Redeemer unit. Don't think they belong more expensive than Retributor territory. Maybe like 210 would be good for them.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, and to be honest, like yeah, Prime was actually super fun to play with.
He's always fun. He's never bad. He's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
the point
He just
cost.
takes up so much in your list. It's wild.
Yeah.
But I had
Yeah,
finished
and
painting
that's because
him.
of
I was super
allies. We were
happy.
just discussing it.
Yeah, I was super happy with my paint job. I did like a modification on his skull, on his head. I used like the skull from like Lord Relictor
Yeah.
and made him look pretty badass. So I was like
Sick.
really happy just to like take him out for a walk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you got a picture of
Sometimes
that,
you gotta play the cool things. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll post it. I'll post it. It's great.
yeah,
It
put
looks.
it up in the
He looks
Discord.
really badass. Yeah, I will.
Sick, dude. Okay, I'm not going to take up any more of your time, buddy. Thanks for coming on. Good luck.
Yeah,
Try to get the high score tonight, huh?
yeah, exactly. Not quite like rolling dice, but sometimes it feels the same. All right, guys. Take care.
Good talking to you. Take care. All right. So that's yeah, I think that's pretty much what you can say about the Annihilator list, right? You'll miss 2 out of 10 charges, and those are the crucial charges sometimes, you know, and it's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. I have won games past those charges, but that usually happens, because I double them afterwards.
Yeah,
so
it's
not as harmful.
It's not immediately over. It just puts you on the back foot. It turns a win into a narrow win or a narrow loss, and it turns a loss into like you're done. It's over.
Yeah. Failing a 7 sucks. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about your LVO experience then, shall we?
Sure.
So we'll start off with the list. You want to run us through it?
Yeah, it's the comp file that we posted in our Discord a bunch of times. We've been, I think, all played it at his events, and then we sort of just kept talking about it and refining it for the last 3 months. The basis for it is 3 Night Vexillers and an Everblaze Comet. These provide a lot of threat range to a lot of like castle type armies that need support heroes to do certain functions, support heroes that need to be close by. It's really good at punching holes into certain armies. And this is essentially like if you think of Gardas armies as like a defensive castle where you shoot them, you have your defenses up and you dare them to come to you so you can counterstrike them. This is an offensive castle. You don't have a bunch of wards up. Everything is pretty killable here. In fact, everything is very killable here. But you're threatening to wreck them with shooting, and so you have to make them come towards you, and then you counterstrike either with the comets, with the combination of comets, evocators, tempesters, Dracothian Guard, etc., etc. And it plays pretty well. Vexillers make a lot of people nervous. Losing support heroes makes a lot of people nervous.
There may be some people who don't know what Vexillers do. So how Vexillers work in your hero phase, you pick a point within 24 inches of the Vexillor anywhere, no line of sight required, and every unit within 6 inches of that point takes D3 mortal wounds. No dice roll, once per game, it just happens. And you can use any number of these per turn. So if you have 6 in your list, you can use all 6 at once and just do 63 mortal wounds to everything in an area. And right now, because of the way the game is with the meta, people are running like 5 and 6 wound heroes. They're very common because they have very powerful buffs, and for the most part, they're immune to shooting because of Lookout Sir, right? So the theory here is that these banners doing 3d3 mortal wounds, on average, should kill every 6 wound hero. And then just in case you get a low roll or you can't get them all in range, we've got the Everblaze Comet in here to do that additional D3, sometimes D6, like what happened with my game against Jake. He just took 6 mortals to the face twice in a row, which was brutal. But yeah, that's the idea. Is we just nuke all these small heroes off the board with Night Vexillers.
Yep. And this shores up so many matchups. It shores up your Sylvanet matchup. It shores up your Khorne, your KO matchup, your Soulblight Gravelords. Like they bring, like Tom Gohan was running 3 characters. I think he was running Vampire Lord, Torgilius, Gorslav, and all the zombies he could muster. So something crazy like 160, 180 zombies. Trying to get through those zombies without killing those heroes, you're not going to win that game at all. But if you can nuke Torgilius and Vampire Lord, Gorslav has a 2 bodyguard pass, so like he's the one that'll survive, and then start just reducing the zombies to where they don't have anyone to like, they have to take battle shot because they don't have a unit leader. That's how you win that game.
It's also good into Big Wa because they're bringing cool bolt
Great
boys.
into Big Wa. Great into cities because you can nuke like their Warforger and Battle Mage.
Yep.
You
Some
know, they're
armies
all
don't
there.
necessarily rely on heroes, but they have very low wound counts and they like to stack everything up. Like Caradron, if you hit a boat full of 2 heroes and a unit, you're
Yeah,
gonna
that's
have
insane
tremendous
value.
value. Yeah.
Yep. And you will like with the combination of shooting, you will kill a boat easy with Vexilers and like some shooting.
Yeah.
And so the list basically plays, like I said, like an offensive castle. You don't like the trick is to not, get too eager and blow all your comets at once. The trick is to make your opponent make mistakes by baiting them with Night Vexilers. Because even if you don't get your comets off, if your opponent gets too aggressive to try and kill a Night Vexiler or two because they're really afraid of the comets, you can really, really punish them because you have 4 Dracothian Guard Tempestors, 2 Fulminators, 3 Irricators on Draculines, 3 Raptors, and these can really, really punish anything that tries to like just tunnel vision into the Vexilers. And it happened in a bunch of my games. This is exactly what ended up happening.
No, there's no one thing in this list that if it dies, you lose the game. Every single thing in this list is simultaneously a threat, but also disposable.
And expendable. Yep, expendable and a threat. Yep.
Which is great. The 5 Vanguard Hunters are like that's
they're tactic boys.
Yeah, and I really like that we've included them here, and we can only do that because we have the Fulminators as battle line. And not a lot of people are using Fulminators competitively with Stormcast right now because Tempestors just do it way better. They're cheaper.
But I think Fulminators still have a place.
They do, especially if you can deploy them in cover and keep them in cover all game long. That's where they really shine.
Yes.
Having a 3-up save, offensive battle line unit like that, that just does so much damage. Just 2 of those models can still do so much damage. It's really absurd. So that's great.
And I did use them offensively, a bunch of times, and defensively a bunch of times. Sometimes they just died and didn't do anything. So,
in the chat, Bugman says, "So what you're saying is Night Vexilers are going to go up 40 points now? Maybe."
Maybe.
The other Stormcast. So spoilers, Bergonk went 5-0 with this list. He made it to the top 8. The other Stormcast list at LVO that did really well, it went 4-0 and then lost its final match, was a list that had, I think, 5 Night Vexilers.
5 Vexilers Imperatant,
and then like 6 units.
Annihilators, and then 2 Vanguard Hunters for tactics.
And all that list was trying to do was just kill you with mortal wounds. And then hopefully that's enough to just squeak by to a round 5 win. Like there's no recovery from that for some armies. And that's always been my problem is like, yeah, you can build these lists. They almost build themselves. But then what do you do when you hit Gargants? What do you do when you hit really high?
Do you know what he lost to?
What?
He lost to Ogres, monster trucks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
6 monsters with a 5 of ward. That's what he lost to.
That makes sense. It some things just roll over you, and you don't have the damage output needed to finish it off.
He beat Coalesced. It's an army that does like 2 damage.
Yeah,
and he beat like that. The Coalesced list was really stupid. It was not stupid, like silly. It was like 3 Stegodons, 3 Bastiladons. He somehow managed to beat that.
I can see it. There's not a high wound count there. You just do 12 mortal wounds, and then that's it. It's over.
Yeah, just wild. He beat the Blackguard list, the one that has like 60 Blackguard and 3 sorceresses.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, just
surprising.
drop, and like the there's only so many 4-ups you can roll before your sorceress dies.
And then the Blackguard lose the 4-up board. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
It's about the critical mass, and the trick with this list was finding the right critical mass, which we ended up deciding was 3 Vexilers, Comet, and then also Lightning Blast on the Incanter. That's another important part of the puzzle.
A cool trick is you can put the Night Incanter in the woods, and she can't see anything except for everything that's like 10 wounds or more.
Yeah.
So you can Lightning Blast, and then you can Lightning Blast behind their lines.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool.
It's also fun to like translocate out of unbinding range and then cast Lightning Blast. That's another thing. The Everblaze Comet is usually cast out of unbinding range, and that is like a great turn 1, no matter, because everybody's going to force you to go first. When you have 7 drops, you're like, okay, I'll go first. I don't mind. I'm going to threaten you constantly with these meteors. Like if you don't overextend and then win the double, these meteors are going to do significant damage to you. And then I might double you, right? But the whole time they're dealing with these little ping mortals from Lightning Blast and Everblaze Comet. Thunderbolt Volley. Like there's so much 30-inch range stuff in this list that it just keeps everybody just outside their comfort zone, right? It's exactly where you want to be with Stormcast, is just outside their comfort zone. So,
yeah. If you want to go to matchups.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's start off with round 1. You played Nurgle on Power Flux. So this was Drowned Men.
This is a very odd list. They had a Bloodthirster in there for -1 to hit for that aura, I suppose. Which I guess is pretty strong. If you're playing like a lot of flies, giving him -1 to hit is also pretty good. I think like I don't know, maybe they got nervous looking at my Vexillers because they did the pregame move, and then they decided to take the first turn against me for some reason. And they moved back. So they took the objective and
Okay.
then they moved back. And then okay, so I went up, uh, got the objectives, shot like a unit of flies, dropped my Tempesters, shot a unit of another flies, killed a unit of flies, got the double, evocators, fulminators get in. End of my double turn, all his like he had like 10 Blight Lords alive and one like fly model alive.
Yeah.
And then I dropped my comets, and then two of his heroes were like shot him with his big guy. And sorry, he had like a blow-up rot spawn. I think he was alive on like 3 or 4 wounds, and he kept healing a little bit. But the game was pretty much over. He was so far behind on points. And then later on, I translocated my Night Vexillor behind his lines while his Bright Kings are moving forward. He killed my unit of Liberators. I used Call for Aid to bring them back on his home objective.
Yeah. Let's talk about
So
Call for Aid, because that's been the MVP for me for months now. I love Call for Aid.
yeah, people forget
I'll explain
I
it every
translocate
time.
heroes. Yeah. And
And
people forget that it's like any hero can do it.
yeah,
And the only reason I'm translocating heroes across the board is because so I can do Call for Aid.
yeah.
And I did this in the quarterfinals too. He knew about it. He like asked me about it, and I told him, and I translocated my Night Vexillor, and he totally forgot about it. And then he like that's how I was able to like get ahead on points for like in towards like mid game as he was doing quite well in the mid board.
For
So
people who aren't in the know, Call for Aid allows us to basically recycle our Liberator unit in this list. When that unit dies, you can spend a command point once per game immediately and just bring it back to life around any of our heroes. And that's been one of the secrets to the success of this list. And because if you look at the wound count and model count, it's very low. Like this list, everything's expendable. But when you have this reload on demand with 5 more Liberators, like that's what's actually propping this list up right now, I think. I would do things like drop my 5 like opponent forces you to go first. Cool. I'm going to drop 5 Liberators in front of your army, directly 9 inches away, blocking your movement so that you have to spend one of your turns just killing them. Usually, I try to do it to make sure there's nothing that can kill it with hero phase damage, so it blocks their movement. And obviously, you try not to do it around flying stuff as much as possible because they can just jump over you. But it just keeping your opponent in their territory for one turn, like you've turned a double turn into a single turn because their first turn that they would spend just killing your Liberators, and you just spend a command point and they're back in front of in the middle of the board, ready to absorb another charge. And you've basically negated 2 turns of their action with that play. It's so silly. I love it. Even and then spreading out Night Vexillors, that's one of the hidden strengths of this list. You have your Night Vexillor spread across the board, so you have multiple points where you can drop those Liberators so they can be as useful as possible. So it actually makes this list surprisingly good at objective control play, not just killing your opponent.
Yeah, it's Call for Aid was really MVP. I mean, mostly in like some of the later games. Plus, like Liberators often die. Just like sometimes they have to engage Liberators because I often end up dropping them right in front of my Tempesters as I drop them from the sky. And so once they kill the Liberators, because they have to get through that to get to my Tempesters, there'll be a Night Vexillor or two waiting in their back lines in their territory to just snap them back. And like it happens pretty much every time. There's very few times people screen for it. Especially if they're as elite as I am. So in this Nurgle matchup, yeah, it was like I think this person was also getting back after a long time into Warhammer, so like they did manage to get a blizzard off on my evocators that was like 24 more wounds or something, like something wild,
Nice.
like full, yeah, like full all 4 6s or something, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, so they're dead. So yeah, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, this game was not much. It was fine.
Yeah,
I let them score their grand strat. It was whatever.
Let's move on to round 2 then. This is Big Wa. This is more of the meta what we were expecting. Maybe not in this particular form, but I guess we can talk about that as well. This is not the kind of Big Wa I was looking at.
Yeah, I was expecting maybe no. Actually, this is pretty much what they take. They've got some screens. They don't have shooters, which I was very surprised by. You normally see at least 6 bolt boys. That's what they don't have. They went full on, just the usual hero combo: shaman, prophet, godsprak, war channers. And basically, this was the one with the 6 objectives. I think Fountains of Frost or whatever it's called.
Yep.
And then I basically have less drops than them because of my Redemption Brotherhood battalion. So I gave them first turn. They move up. They do their magical dominance. They don't really get into any of my units. I take my turn. He has positioned like he's got like 2 separate armies where he's got a bunch of brutes and Gardenas on the right with a war chanter, and like 3 heroes on the left with his Gobstrak. I dropped 3 comments on Gobsfrack, War Chanter, and his Wargok Prophet. His Wargok Prophet is down to 2 wounds. Don't manage to kill him. Then I shoot Gobsfrack off the board. I drop Tempesters, killed like 10 brutes. Charge my Evocators, delete his Wound Clan status. He tries staring. I don't get the double. He tries staring at my Evocators. He does 2 more wounds, and then he rolls a 1 and a 6, and he fails enough wards to die.
Yikes.
So the Wargok Prophet doesn't do anything. So he got really unlucky on that. And then after that, it was just a slow tempo game where like he couldn't get to me because I just have shooting. I have fulminators. My whole army's alive. All his stuff is pretty slow. The biggest threat in that book was 6 Gorgarders, and they were like close enough to the Gobsprack to when I dropped the comets, I was able to ping them down to like 3 left or 2 left after I was done with the Everblaze Comet and all 3 Vexilers. So it's like with that and shooting, like he just didn't have enough speed to get to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you just grind them out at that point. You actually have more stuff on the table after you do all that.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I literally I don't think I lost. I think I lost 5 Liberators, of which I recycled, but yeah, I didn't lose anything other than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this list is really good at taking an aggressive position and leveraging it into like just building momentum off that position.
This would be really good into zombies or something because the brutes just negate there's objective taking potential, and you can just Wargok stare all the heroes down.
Yeah, this would do a lot better into non-ranged armies. But I think that's one of the reasons we're in a ranged meta, right?
Yeah,
this stuff like this.
But yeah, great
struggles.
Great opponent. Great, just also the distance was so large because this is one of those like large maps. It's like it's not starting in the middle of the board. It's starting 11 inches up.
Yep.
Dawn of War deployment was not good for this list.
Yeah, when you're 22 inches apart, you can avoid the comets easier, but the rest of your army can't engage properly. So it actually makes it more difficult, I find. So yeah, this is favorable to comets for sure. Especially the Everblaze Comet, casting from 36 inches and then affecting within 10, just range table, basically. It's awesome. Round 3?
Sylvaneth, yeah, this is the non-Beltanos list. I deployed in a way thinking they would give me first turn, because Sylvaneth pretty much always has to. I've never seen a Sylvaneth player that takes the first turn. And they didn't. They took the first turn. Alariel comes up, kills my screen. I hit and deploys all the shooters. He kills my fulminators because I don't roll good on saves. And then it's my turn. I drop comets. I shoot. I drop Tempesters. My evocators. I get the double. His entire army, except for Alariel, is dead.
Why do you think people keep taking the first turn against this list, knowing how good Stormcast double turns are? Is it just people are making a mistake, or what are they going for?
I think they expect... So, I don't know, like, maybe... I don't know if we play like this, but they were afraid we would take up different positions on the board. We would position ourselves near the places of power. We would take up different positions on the board to where they couldn't deploy their trees and cut out their mobility.
Okay, so they
Which I don't know why you would care about that, because this was lines of communication. So even with 5-inch movement, you can get to the center of the board because there's 3 objectives in the middle. So I don't know why they cared about that so much, because they had the mobility to get wherever they wanted, and this was primarily a shooting army with Alariel moving 16. So like, what's the problem there? But
maybe they wanted to plant woods in the middle to block your shooting.
I guess, but it's like cool. Like the evocators alone, like evocators, Tempesters is so much work. Evocators, Tempesters, 3 comets. Like I'm just like he deployed like he summoned 3 more bows, so he had 2 units of 3 bows on my left and 6 bows on my right. I just went comet. Both those 3 got reduced to 1. I charged them both with 2 Night Vexilers, and I killed the last one. So I was like, I'm not even going to commit a hammer unit to this. I'm just going to charge my Night Vexilers.
Yeah.
And then on the right, the evocators, Tempester shot him. Evocators charged in, mortally wounded them off, and now they only have Alariel left. And it's like, cool. Alariel's she's gonna kill maybe 1 or 2 things.
She's in one place at a time.
Turn. Yeah, she's in one place at a time. I have 2 out of 3 objectives. Cool. Well, you just talked it out. I was like, I'll give you whatever battle tactic and grand strategy you think you can do. So it was, cool.
So how are you doing on tactics and grand strats at this point?
Good. Like I'm fighting fairly elite lists that don't have a lot of teleports. They can't really interact with it. If they bring something too close, they open up other battle tactics. Like if they bring like a 10-man unit too close, it opens up Dracothian Destruction? Dracot Destruct, whatever. The Dracot battle tactic.
Yeah.
It opens that up. If they have like a 10 wound hero, like a Lady of Vines, it opens up Hammer Strike Assault, which is pretty good. So I find myself doing those, and Vanguard Hunters just MVPs, scoring me, secure the battlefield, surround and destroy. Just absolute gold.
So have you dropped
Gold
any
standard
tactics
units.
yet at this point? 3 rounds in?
No, I had not.
Nice.
I got close, but I did not. And the only reason I got close is because like I guess they strike and faded Lariel way too far back, so I guess that's why.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So round 4, you've had a full night's sleep, and you're facing Sylvaneth again.
Yeah, this match made me really nervous because it has everything's on a 3-up save here. One of them is an ethereal 3-up save. One of them has, and he has Beltanos 3-up save, 5 ward. There's nothing in this army that can chew through that unless I'm literally focusing everything on him. And given the nature of all the tree lords, I can't afford to do it. They have a fight last monstrous rampage,
Yes.
and every time they hit you with their vines, you can't pile in against them. So this match made me kind of nervous, honestly. So I deployed the best I could. Again, they took the first turn. And I don't know why. I was expecting they would try to double me and then just like take over the board, especially since this was limited resources, so there were 6 objectives. It was that battle plan. I don't know why they did that, but anyway, so he moves up Beltanos, deep strikes, or because tree lords have their own little teleport built in, so he teleports every single one of them 9 inches away from me, right? He shoots a bunch, does maybe 2 or 3 damage to like my Vanguard Hunters and Fulminators. Beltanos charges in into the Vanguard Hunters, kills them, strikes and fades back. He fails all the rest of his charges because they're 9-inch charges. And he's out of command points because he's just spent it on all-out attack and trying to reroll a charge. So he has no charges left. And then it's my turn. Fulminators. So I drop all 3 comets into 2 of the tree lords. One of them is Durthu because I know Durthu needs to die because he has the Gladius that does like insane amounts of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Every single comet into Durthu, he unbinds my Everblaze comet. I shoot Durthu with Thunderbolt Volley. I charge Fulminators into Durthu dies into the Tree Lord. Tree Lord dies. Tempesta drop, bring another Tree Lord to 2 wounds. Evocators drop on the left so I can countercharge if I get a double. I drop Liberators on the back to snipe his objective. I get the double turn. Tempester shooting. He gets the priority the first time. I have formed a screen of Night Vexillers around my Tempesters, so he can't get to them without engaging them.
Nice.
I redeploy one of them into the garrison. So now, like, one of them is garrisoned. And then he charges in, he kills one Night Vexillor and does nothing else. And his Unleash Hell kills another Tree Lord. Tempesters fighting with 12 attacks and -2 Rend 2 damage kill another Tree Lord. Then it's my turn. I go, I teleport the Vanguard Raptors. I kill all of his Tree Revenants or Spite Revenants with a volley, and then kill 5 of them with a volley. Fulminators move up, kill his other Spite Revenants. Evocators move up into the center and kill his Tree Lord Ancient. And now his only thing he has left is I think he had 5 Tree Revenants and Beltanos alive. And he decided to call it quits and shake my hand. So
crazy. That's such an aggressive play. Even if he ended up making 1 or 2 of those charges, do you think how much would have changed? Because those tree lords would just be on your front doorstep in range to just take all the damage.
Were in cover. My Fulminators were in cover. I was using them as screens here, and so I don't think he would have done much. Like he didn't even manage to. He had like 2 rounds of fighting Tempesters. A Tree Lord Ancient and a Tree Lord into the Tempesters because he piled around my Night Vexillor. And he didn't do any damage to the Tempester. He did like 2 damage. It's like whatever. And I was close to an objective, so I had the wards up as well. And he killed a Night Vexillor. The Night Vexillor exploded and did 3 more wounds back. It's like cool.
I found that the woods often play to my advantage with this list because Lightning Blast doesn't get stopped, Comet doesn't get stopped, the Meteors don't get stopped, and Tempesters always just drop in close enough to shoot anyway. And I end up flipping it so that the woods play to my advantage because I'll put Fulminators and Tempesters in their woods. And now I'm on 2-ups. Like,
yes,
it works really well.
That is an interesting way to play it. The other thing was like they this was really bad, but it's like they only have 1 wizard here. They have the Spirit of the Tree Lord Ancient, that's a wizard.
Yeah.
They were outside of Unbind range turn 1, so I guess they took it to do magical dominance. But nobody got any primals. We all failed our rolls.
Oh, so he failed the hive too?
He failed the hive. He rolled a 5.
Yeah.
And so
that's one of the problems with Sylvaneth, right? Is they have a consistency issue.
So yeah, that really sort of spelt the game out. And then I didn't expect it to be that easy to kill Tree Lords, but it's like There was some bad saves he rolled too. Like some of his like stuff like on like when I Tempester shot it, he had like 15 saves on a 3-up, and he failed like I want to say 8 of them or like 9 of them, something like that.
I don't want people to get the impression that it was just, oh, Stormcast got a double and therefore you won, because every single one of your opponents has had the opportunity to choose priority whenever they wanted,
Yeah.
and they're giving you the
Yes.
opportunity to get these double turns. So it's like I think they're just making mistakes rather
I
than
honestly like when he said, "Yeah, I'll take turn one." I'm like, "Are you sure about that?" I'm like, "My list is really good on a double turn, and like you, if you want to be in my face, like that might not go so well."
Hmm.
And they gave me the same like I guess argument that I've heard from other Sylvan players. It's like they think we're gonna clog up the mid board and like take up these positions to where they can't deploy trees and they can't teleport, and they don't want
Hmm.
that.
Maybe other RVs will do that, but we want that to happen. Like I said, I want to use the woods to my advantage. So
Yeah, like
weird.
that was their reasoning. They didn't want us blockading them in their zone.
So would
They're
you
afraid of us taking away their mobility.
which list was tougher from the two Sylvaneth lists, the round 3 or round
I
4?
think this one was.
Yeah.
I think I was more afraid because I was afraid he would. I didn't even think he would try Spy Swarm Hive. I thought he would try like Mystic Shield.
Hmm.
Get something to up.
One cast wizard, unreal.
Yeah, it must. But the thing is, like this list had because Everblaze Comet was useless against him because he had a 4-up spell ignore on everything within a range. I actually got a Blizzard off in the second battle round, but he ignored it. But I had to roll it anyway because there's a chance it could kill my Knight Incanter.
True.
Luckily, it didn't do any more wounds, so I rolled it. But yeah, like before this, I think he'd just beaten a Zinch list. The Zinch list couldn't do anything to him, so it's like cool.
4-up Spelling was a good meta pick right now.
Yeah, and it was surprisingly there's a lot of damage, and like if nothing's piling in against you, and the thing is these Tree Lords don't bracket at all because Oakenbrian makes it so you take half your bracket, so they don't bracket until there are 13 wounds taken. So meaning they have one wound left.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're practically dead. So
Yeah.
so like it makes it really hard, and they have good shooting. Like I almost made a deployment mistake because I forgot the Tree Lords all have different ranges. They have 15, 12, and 18. And then I'm like, wait a second, what's your longest shooting? And he goes 18. I'm like, oh, okay, Vanguard Raptor's over here.
Yeah, more than 9. More than 9.
9 inches out. Yeah, more than 9. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
9 inch screens out. So yeah, deployment took a long time. Almost got clocked here because he was like, your deployment's taking too long. I'm like, I know, it's because you have a lot of mobility and you have a lot of shooting, and
A
I
lot
want
to
to make
consider.
sure.
Yeah.
I have a lot to consider. Yes, like where am I going to deploy my comments? Where are you going to put what? But and then yeah, Vexilars rolled hot. Like I think I did. Dorothy was at 2 wounds left by the time I was done with like all the Vexilars on him.
Very nice.
He had like Lightning Blast, Vexilars. He had like 2. Like every one of them were like 3, 3, 3, and he had his 6-up wards kept failing. So
nice. Okay, well, it is a dice game, right? Like we always assume our opponents are going to roll hot. That's how we play. We play around that. Okay, let's go round 5.
But I still had to use a Thunderbolt volley, which I should have done first before I committed the comment. So I did make a mistake there. Because Thunderbolt volley ended up doing like
overkill,
6 more wounds by itself. Yeah, 6 more wounds by itself. So I would have not committed as many of the comments, but it's whatever.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk round 5 because I have found that Khorne has been a very good matchup for this type of list. They really just hate everything about what we're doing.
Yep, and this was a Dawn of War style deployment, so we're very far apart. They can easily put their stuff out of combat range, which they did. So this was the Geomantic Pulse. And they put Reavers to score the surround and destroy and take the objectives on either flank, supported by 2 units of Mighty Skull Crushers each. In the middle, they've got their Claws of Karanak or whatever. Did they have Claws of Karanak? No, the last unit of 10 Reavers. Yeah, all their 3 Priests, Scarbrand, and their Unfettered Fury. So I deployed Evocated on the left, Fulminators on the right, Raptors in the middle, Vexilar, left, right, and center. And my first Vexilar in the middle is like right next to my Vanguard Hunters, sort of like a screen, but also as bait. They have less drops than I do, so I was like, okay, cool. They're gonna, give me turn 1, see what I do, and try to double me, and then win the game off that because I'm out of Vexilar range, and I'm not gonna cast a Comet against Khorne, because they get 2 5-up rolls against that because of that -1 to cast effect that our Comet has. And they took turn 1, and they juice up Scarbrand with a Bronze Flesh.
All right.
They juice him up with Killer Instinct. They send him out. He charges into my Knight Vexilar with a 3d6. Rolls a 1 on his Mortal Wound Axe, so it doesn't do anything. My Knight Vexilar's on Finest Hour. He rolls 3 at how many attacks he has, but he gets 2 hits off. I save one of them, so one does like 3 damage. And it's like cool. My Vexilar's alive.
So his
And
his
that's
thinking was, there's a Knight Vexillor, I'm gonna throw Scarbrand at it and get rid of it. He's gonna trade, how many points is Scarbrand? 380. He's gonna trade 380
yes.
points, a bunch of prayers, and this really important piece that the only thing in his list that does any damage. And he's gonna throw it at you top of one to hopefully kill one Knight Vexillor. It seems
I
like a
guess he was
really,
trying to double
really bad
value me
play.
by killing my Vanguard Hunters, and he managed to kill 2 of them with the shooting attack. But it's
Okay.
like he didn't achieve anything else.
Should have
I
put
guess he got
everything
his
into the
battle
Vex.
tactic. Yeah, he took the all the objectives, which like cool. And then on my turn, I go, okay, my Knight Vexilor's alive, and he's moved his priests up for some reason. So now they're within range of the comets. They're within they are exactly within 30 inches of them. So I drop all 3 comets. All 3 of his priests die. So he's lost both the Secretor, the Slaughter Priest, and sorry, all 3 Slaughter Priests are dead by this point. Then Evocators, sorry, Vanguard Raptors Thunderbolt volley into Scarbrand. They shoot him again. Evocators charge into Scarbrand. They kill him. I drop Tempestors on the left. I use Dracothian Destruction as my battle tactic to clear off 10 Blood Reavers. Fulminators move to the center, charge his Mighty Skull Crushers. Kill them. Because Skull Crushers, he didn't have any command points left. Trying to, I guess, like do all that defense and stuff. And then I get the double. And by the end of turn 2, everything on his board was dead except I think he had a Blood Secretor alive and 10 Reavers alive. And then he summoned 20 Bloodletters. And then they charged my center, and they tried to split attacks between Evocators, Fulminators, and Vanguard Hunters. They killed the Vanguard Hunters. Evocators and Fulminators killed like 15 of them. And then the game was over after that.
It really sounds like we've created an archetype that people don't know how to play against yet. There's a lot of...
I think he started mentioning around 2. He's like, I should have given you first turn. I don't know why I took it. I'm like, yeah, I totally was expecting you to do that. I just don't understand why he did it either.
Because we've been practicing this list for so long, we've started to kind of know what to look out for. Like, this is a tactic that works well against us, and it seems like you were able to just surprise most of your opponents with what you were trying to do. Like, they weren't able to figure out.
That's why I mentioned, I'm like, there wasn't like any brilliant tactics or anything involved here. I guess you could say there's some mind games involved with like how I deploy, and it makes them play cagey and makes them take first turn. But tactically, every single one of these games comes down to my opponent is taking the first turn, and then like I will double them. And when a Stormcast list gets a double, and they have like Evocators, Fulminators, Tempestors, and Raptors up, all these units are alive. If they get 2 turns back to back, there's not a lot of armies in the game, period, that can withstand that assault.
Yeah, Stormcast punish mistakes like no other army. Positioning mistakes, like any mistake your opponent makes, we can really, really capitalize on, which is really cool.
Yeah, so really, this all just came down to my opponent's taking first turn, me getting the double. Game's practically over by 2.
Even
after
in the
that,
cases,
we just mostly talk it out.
Even in the cases,
I'm like, cool.
Even when you didn't win the double, it still was heavily in your favor. And it sounded like you were just like, it was you had to play very carefully, right? Any mistake would have cost you the game, but when you played carefully, it almost felt like it was your opponent's game to lose. Like, they had to. It was on them to try to do anything about it, and it's tough.
Yeah,
it's a really tough list, for sure.
Yeah, and I love Evocators and Fulminators here. I just put them exactly where my opponent was going to try and charge me, and then I would have them in a perfect position for like a counterattack in either direction. And I think the movement really helped.
Yeah.
With that.
Splitting up Evocators and Fulminators, usually Evocators on one side, Fulminators on the other.
And my guess is when I saw he put Scarbrand in the center, I'm like, okay, so I can go to the center if I want, or go to the flanks if I want. So it's like,
yeah, that's something we haven't mentioned yet. It's just how important having more drops than your opponent is. Yeah. Having all the information on your opponent's deployment lets you take those perfect deployments, which gives you the best possible turn 1, which leads into them taking the first turn, which leads into you getting a double turn while having off the perfect deployment. You can just double and crush them. So it's all downstream for that very first model they deploy. Every decision is downstream of that, and like the game just it collapses.
And I guess like I guess like I would have let him take it back, but it's like I told him about as they were moving their Slaughter Priest off. I'm like, that'll put you in range of my comments, right? And I guess like they didn't like.
Well, it's tough. It's like, what do you do about that? Like, how do you not move up on a battle plan that requires you to move up?
I guess I would have just spread them out, like maybe
probably at least 12 inches between them, right?
Yeah, like at least 12 inches, because he could have just committed priests to either side. He would have gotten rerolls, but they would have been alive. And it's like, me getting 3 priests off of 3 comments, because like literally as I got the double turn, I go like the Vexillor that Scarbrand was engaged with dropped their comment. This Vexillor on the left flank was in range. They dropped their comment. When I got the double, so that killed like I think 2 priests, and then I got the double. My Knight Vexillor on the right was too far out, but I had moved him up 5 inches, so I got the double. I put his comment again, and then that killed the last priest. And it's like
it feels, if I was the corn player, I wouldn't necessarily know what to do. It just feels like no matter what you do, it's the wrong choice. If you move up, you get hit in combat. If you don't move up, you get shot until you move up. If you ever keep anything close together, which you want to do with corn, you're highly encouraged to keep stuff together. You just get meteored off the board. Like Comet Fall is like corn's nightmare. They really would hate playing against this.
Yeah, I mean, this also list, I don't think it was very optimal. I don't think the Mighty Skull Crushers were a good choice. Like, despite their 2-up armor, I was able to continuously make sure that every time I was engaging them, he had used his command point for all-out defense somewhere else.
Oh, and the Knight Relictor has a 4-up ignore against prayers. Like Corn hates that so much. We're the only army in the game that ignores prayers, and we don't
actually totally forgot about that, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Because so like he had a, what's that thing called? The
Rat
icon,
Axe?
the one that's like makes you flee more. Is that the icon?
Icon, yeah.
Yeah, he had the icon in front of my Vanguard Hunters or something. That's the first thing he put out there. And he's like, yeah, they'll do mortal wounds if it stays there, it'll do mortal wounds. I'm like, cool. And I think he like made my Knight Vanguard Hunters flee because I rolled really bad battle shock roll, and then he also did some mortal wounds to it. And I totally forgot. I had the Knight Relictor next to them the whole time. Like I could have rolled that, but I just didn't remember that. It just skipped my mind.
We forget it. Everybody forgets.
It doesn't come up. It literally doesn't come up like in half the games. And the one game that come up, I forgot about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, you had a chance to face another corn match because this. Okay, so you're 5-0, max tactics, grand strategy every game. So that puts you in the top 8. You didn't have to go through the shadow round to figure out if you go into top 8.
I escaped by 1. Yes.
Nice. And then your first matchup in the top 8 was another corn list, but what I would consider a tougher and more refined version of a corn list.
It does what I expect corn to really do, which is leverage the maximum use of Blood Tide as possible with cheap as chips chaff units.
Right. So
instead of spending points in Mighty Skull, so like not to criticize Mitch, he was a lovely opponent. I think he's a friend of James, because we were talking about James while we were playing too.
Cool.
I think leveraging points into things like Mighty Skull Crusher is a mistake. When you just need 2 good hammers in your list, maybe 3 if you're feeling like it, and then everything else can just be cheap chaff to get you Blood Tide. And this is what this list does, because that not only gets you Blood Tide, it gives you area denial. This person is very, very, very good. Fabian is like an amazing player, and I think he was like representing the French team at Worlds. And they had deployed in an almost perfect way. So again, as you can notice, I'm already sort of at a disadvantage because they have more information than I do, because they have more drops than me. They deployed everything in such a way to where literally the only tactic I could do turn 1 was magical dominance. And the first thing they did as I gave them turn 1, because I'm like, well, I can't do anything turn 1 if I, they used the Magor's Fiend Hound and Murderlust to just move up all the way up the board to try and deny magical dominance.
Did you Thunderbolt volley it off?
No, because I was like, if I fail my translocate, I'll do that. So I didn't fail my translocate. Okay. I translocate my Knight and Canter to the left, outside of range, did magical dominance.
Nice.
But I should have. I did make some mistakes because I got nervous playing against him, I think, because like he seemed very refined in his he knew what he was doing. Like he knew what tactics to deny.
Well, let me take a second here for people who aren't as knowledgeable about corn, let's say. I want to just go over some of the highlights of this list and what makes it different than the other one. So this one is a very similar concept, right? You've got the Fury Thirster, who's got the same artifact, which shuts off wards. He's got Bloodbind, and then another hero has Killer Instinct. So what this list can do that the other one couldn't do is you can Killer Instinct to make the Unfettered Fury move up in the hero phase 12 inches, and then he can chant Bloodbind to pull you 8 inches forward. And that combo catches people off guard all the time, and it like almost wins you games every time it happens. So he's got that. Instead of going for more mortals, he ended up going with this cool combo that we talked about in our How to Counter Corn video. We never released our review of Corn. But the Bloodmaster with Halo of Blood, who fights first, and then pulls in 20 Bloodletters who immediately fight first as well. And yes. That's awesome. He's got Scar Bloodwrath, who is just going to die and then revive over and over and over in your opponent's turn, as long as you're lucky. and generate blood tithe each time, which is the important thing. It's just a permanent source of blood tithe. He's got the Magor's Fiends, which are a blood tithe, and then they summon a Hound, which is another blood tithe. So it's 2 blood tithe for the price of 1. And then he's teched in Thedra Skullscryer, who is a warband from, I forget which season of, I think it was season 3.
It's a Dark Old season 2 warband. It's like
season 2, yeah.
It's got yeah.
But she is just going to cast Mystic Shield and score magical dominance, and then some other crazy play we'll talk about later. But she also comes with another unit. So this is, again, 2 blood tithe for whatever point value. I think she's 150, 160 points. He's really going all in on generating as much blood tithe and getting as much value out of it as possible. And that other list wasn't doing the same thing, right? He's also got the Bloodmaster here rather than Slaughter Priests. I know Slaughter Priests are really popular right now because they have an Unbind, but the Bloodmaster, importantly, can give you +1 to wound with demons, and when you run 20 bloodletters, hit 6 mortals are great, but having +1 to wound is also really great. So you can be on 2s with bloodletters. That's 40 attacks. If you have there's no Blood Secretor in this list, but let's say you somehow get up to 8 tithe, now it's 60 attacks. Like it's probably not going to happen, but it's possible, right? So the +1 to wound is really, really nice to have.
So they pushed up Scar, Bloodwrath, and the the Fleshhound up. I should have Thunderbolt volleyed them, but I didn't. I Thunderbolt volleyed his screen on the right. I tried killing his screen on the left. I charged his thing with my evocators, killed them. So now he has 3 blood tithe. I win the turn priority, but I give him the turn because there's not much for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
In his turn, and I miscalculated it because I had my Vanguard Hunters up in the middle. He had pushed his Claws of Karnak up. I thought they were outside of 9, so even if he rolled a 6 on Murder Lust, he wouldn't get in. But it wasn't. He could get in with a 6, or a 5. And so he Murder Lusted my Vanguard Hunters when I declared the Secure the Battlefield tactic. So that didn't happen. That's when I lost. That's really where it swung the tempo for me. So I'm like, okay, cool. The only way I win now is I have to get aggressive. And that worked out because that's all he did in that turn. And so I killed his Claws of Karnak with my evocators. He I think went up and he got the turn again. So he moved up, killed my evocators on Dracoline, the Scarbrand, but my 4 Tempestors are alive, my Fulminators are alive, my Vexillers are still alive. I drop Comets. I get the double, and basically in these 2 double turns, I swung the game to where his whole army was dead. He only had Thedra Skullscryer alive. And unfortunately, my Vanguard Hunters failed their charge into her. Otherwise, they would have either killed her, or at the very least, it would have allowed me to take up a spot where he couldn't summon anything around the Blood Throne.
Right.
But I rolled double 1s on my charges on ice fields. So
yikes.
That was really unlucky. So he summons 20 Bloodletters, he gets his tactic, but he's still behind on points, and it looks like we're gonna tie. So he needs to kill my Knight Incanter to get his Grand Strat, and then get a minor victory that way. And so he towards Battle Round 5, to basically do this, he Primal casts with his Thedra Skullscryer and rolls 1s. Primal Miscast kills her. He gets a Blood Tithe. He uses the Blood Tithe for a Barascal Meteor into my Knight Incanter. He gets 6 out of the 8 dice rolls. He gets 6 6s or something. So not even 5s, straight up 6 6s. The Chaos symbol. And then I roll my wards because she's on the objective. I rolled no wards, so I'm like, cool. All right, minor victory.
So the dice, the sequence of dice, and kudos to him for seeing this play, because this is the craziest play I've ever heard of in all of Age of Sigmar. He sees a line where he has to kill his own wizard by primal miscasting, which means you need to roll a 1 and then roll a primal and roll another 1. So he sees that would generate him a blood tithe so that he could Brass Meteor, which is 8 dice that do mortal wounds on 5s, to your 5 wound hero, who would then roll 0 wards. And this would be exactly enough to deny you a grand strategy and therefore cause him to win the tiebreaker. It wouldn't even get him ahead on points. It would just win the tiebreaker.
It was 18 to 21. It was 18 to 21, and he got 3 points ahead, and then he got a minor because of that.
That is an absurd line.
Hey, congrats to him. He figured out his lines of play and he played
it's brilliant.
it.
It's brilliant.
I no hard feelings there. It's just we it was a good game. He's a good opponent. He knew what he was doing with his list, which is when there hasn't been a lot of times where I felt oh shit, I'm gonna get clocked. I need to also play faster.
Yeah.
This is definitely one of those games because everything I do, I need to take Murder
so deliberate. Yeah. Khorne is a very techie
and the
army.
thing is Murder Lust doesn't even have a clause that's hey, it's Murder Lust, so you need to be closer to your opponents after you move. No, it's literally just another redeploy.
Yep.
If I declare something what's that one that lets us kill a monster or something?
Hammer
Strike Assault. Let's say let's say I do Hammer Strike Assault. He can just double redeploy with Murder Lust. He can go myrtle us, and then if I move my evocators within 9, he can go redeploy.
It sounds like none of this would happen if you had just been 1 inch further away with your Vanguard Hunters.
Yes, the game would have been a lot easier. I mean, that's what I said. Like, I messed up. Like, I got nervous. I wasn't thinking straight. But it's like, I try to play the best I could. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to kill him. Like this is not a game where I'm going to score a lot turns 1 and 2. My goal is to double him to the 3 and 4 and take the game away from there. And I narrowly did. And then, but dice is a dice. It's like, what are you going to do?
That's what we were saying earlier, though, is that this list, you have to play perfectly. Any mistake just snowballs it in the other direction because everything is simultaneously a threat and expendable, but you can't just throw things away, right? Like everything has to trade efficiently and effectively. So kudos for Fabian for seeing that ridiculous line. That's so absurd. But it sounds like if somebody could calculate the odds of that, that would be great.
No, but the thing is, like, there's another line for that because it's like I would also have to fail my charge. It was a 4-inch charge that I rolled a double 1 on, which allowed him also summon 20 letters.
Right, because your Vanguard Hunters died and gave him
yes. So it would have to be me rolling double 1s, him summoning those blood letters, getting an 8-inch charge with a reroll into my the Vanguard Raptors that I had on his home objective, getting those 2 points, and then that line of play. So like a lot of things had to like line up to build towards that. But I have no like bad feelings about it. It was a great
awesome
game. I went and played at the blackjack tables after that, doubled my money, and then left.
Fantastic. So I know Matt Rose was watching that game.
Yeah.
which
he liked that moment a lot. He said that. He mentioned it on Warhammer Community on that Watch video. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But no, I guess like I hope he, gives us some dragon point drops now that he sees we're not playing dragons. But really what's going to happen is Vexlers are going to go up by 10.
Vexlers up by 10, long strikes down 20. We're just back in 2nd edition where they keep reducing the cost of long strikes.
Yep. We're back to Vanguard Wing, basically.
Well, that's a nice segue into the last thing I wanted to talk about before we talk about the painting contest is there's a Battlescroll coming.
Mm-hmm.
Could be today, could be next week, it could be 2 weeks from now. We don't know when it's coming, but it is coming, and it's coming soon. So I kind of just wanted to talk about what we expect to see in that, and then we can go over the painting results after this. Don't spend too long on this. Like each one of these, I've kind of just sorted all the armies in the game into either I think they're going to get nerfed, I think they're going to get buffed, and I don't know. They're not strong or weak in any particular way. Maybe they're just on the edge of one of those. So I think it goes without saying, we haven't talked about it at all today because you didn't face cities, but cities are going to get nerfed, right? Command Core is ridiculous, needs to be changed. When you bring 2 of them and your opponent and you can shut off 100% of your opponent's command abilities, it's a very different game. You're suddenly just playing a new edition of the game that your opponent is not playing. Right? There's this whole system. It's like you're playing OBR with their 2nd edition rules in 3rd edition where everybody's using command points and you're still using RDP. That's what it feels like. You're just not playing the same edition. So cities has got to get nerfed. I think the Steam Tank spam.
I mean, I don't know if they will do something to their orders. I feel like orders being another command ability is really strong because, all the cities list I saw were maxing out on heroes because having 6 command abilities that your opponents can't do anything about is pretty good.
I'm okay with that. I think the orders are something people just have to get used to, like the unique things that define other armies. I think orders, you just got to start learning to play around them.
I just don't like the fact that they're hidden.
Yeah, it was very obviously written before Lookout Sir, right? So maybe that's something. I've been hoping that they increase the range restriction on Lookout Sir from 12 to 18.
No. I mean the orders being looky-loo.
Oh, yeah, you can't see what they are. You can reasonably predict what they're going to be once you get familiar with them.
Sure, but it's like, I don't know. Orders seem wild to me.
If he's got a hero next to Fusiliers,
but really, I think it's the command core. It's really the command.
It's command core.
Watching KO become a ground-based army because they can't fly high anymore.
Yes.
Because of the command core. That's insane.
Even just like when people fail charges in 2nd edition, there was a command to re-roll that. But when you fail to charge, the game was over. And it almost never happens in 3rd edition because you can re-roll even like a 6-inch re-rollable charge. It's like it's so reliable, it's going to happen. But when you fail that first one and you can't re-roll it anymore, and you spend the command point, and you can't issue it again later that phase. And there's nothing you can do about that because the command core is on the other side of the table. There's no counterplay. That just wins the game sometimes too. Like it's really silly. And this, we should also mention in case people didn't know, LVO already had nerfs to Cities of Sigmar in its player pack. So Zenestra has to pick 2 different effects for her prayer. That's already in the rules for LVO. So you didn't see a lot of effective Zenestra play, I don't think. And then the other nerf was the Command Core has to pick different units when it heals them and revives. So you
can't stack the healing on the same unit.
Right. So the Fusilier block just doesn't work anymore. And kudos to the 2 people who took Cities of Sigmar and went all the way to the top with it, because both of them played exceptionally well and they had really good lists that accounted for all these changes. I think
Jeremy's like a dedicated Cities player.
Oh yeah.
I think in the last 4 times I've been to LVO, he's always played Cities.
His Phoenician list was ridiculous last year.
Yeah.
Like I loved that list. That was so cool. And then the Steam Tank thing, I think that caught everybody by surprise. I don't think many people were expecting Steam Tank spam, because it's like,
why would you look because they're out of stock everywhere. It's like the it's like the Splintered Fang thing.
Yeah, it's an old model. It's out of stock. And people were just so focused on the Fusilier thing that Steam Tanks didn't even hit the radar, right? But then like,
it's like the thing is like it's not Steam Tanks though. It really isn't. It's Command Core.
Yes, Command Core is what makes them
killing a
ridiculous.
2-up save 11 wound model is not a problem. Bastiladons exist in the game and nobody gives a shit.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can heal the Bastiladons, or like 5 Bastiladons, you can keep healing them D3 every turn, and the Bastiladons shoot back every time they're shot with the command system.
Yep.
Sorry, the order system. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yes. So Steam Tanks end up being too efficient. So I think hopefully we would see a small point increase on them, and I think all the LVO changes, I think those are going to be in the Battlescroll, and I think Command Core got to be nerfed as well. I like your suggestion the best, which is Command Core doesn't cancel the command, it just increases the cost by 1. I think that's the fairest way to do it if it's going to remain.
And because then that includes a lot of counterplay. It means it just taxes you. B, it means if you have a hero that says, I don't use a command point to issue this, it doesn't affect it at all.
Yeah,
so you get past it that way.
Like Lord Imperaton or Bastion or something like that.
Yeah, or Arknaut Admiral or whatever.
Yeah, because even if you nerf it to like 12-inch range, that's still crushingly good against melee armies. So I don't want to see it be like a 5-up instead. I think the change I would prefer seeing is that one. Just make it cost an extra command point, which it's a significant nerf to the ability, but that unit has so much going on for it that you're still going to see 1 in every city's list and probably 2 still, because the reviving, the healing.
That's the one thing they were talking about mentioning. They're like, this is a support unit. We didn't expect it to see that many of it, but we're seeing 2 in every list. It's like it's almost like every City of Sigmar list starts with 2 command core, which is true. Most of the City of Sigmar lists over there did start with 2 command core.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just not a good feeling. It's like this is a command-based edition. Everything is based around having special commands, holy commands, all these command points, and it's like, oh, cool. I'm just gonna sit at the edge of the board, not interact with you, and then shut them down on a 4-up.
Cities like nuked OBR out of the meta.
Yep, Cataclysm was nowhere to be seen.
Yes, basically. Yeah. So it's a significant thing. I've got Ideneth up here. The only thing that needs to change with Ideneth is the sharks. They're too efficient. People are bringing 10, 12 of them.
That's the only thing they have going for them, so it's not going to get nerfed.
I know. It's not even that good. It's just nothing in the game. There shouldn't be lists in the game that are just the same war scroll 10 times. That shouldn't be a valid. It should be valid, but it shouldn't be the best way to play the army, right? Like if you're somebody who really wants to get into Ideneth and you're like, oh cool, I can't wait to use my turtles and my eels and my cool reavers. It's like, no, bring 10 sharks. Go get 10 of that shark, put it on the table. And in 6 months, it's useless because they'll change it at some point, right? Like it's a terrible feeling to have that much of the same unit in your army. Caradron are a little too good, right? Like they didn't have they went top 4.
Not in points. They're not a points. It's not a points thing. I mean, maybe you could do like a +10, -10 on Thunderers or like whatever, what have you. But it's battle tactics. The battle tactics are some of the best in the game. It's like having season 1 battle tactics in your book.
They go 5 out of 5 pretty much every game.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then if they're not going 5 for 5, it's because something has wiped them off the board.
Yeah. And I don't want to start nerfing battle tactics. I don't think that should be the way they balance armies out.
I mean, the only thing you'll change is like how efficiently can they leverage those battle tactics. But then again, if you nerf their points too much, that army becomes unplayable.
Yeah.
It's a high damage army sometimes, but it's still very like lots of 4s, lots of 3s in there, not a lot of 2s in there. Ultimately they're just a good scoring army right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the right way to do that. Maybe just give them like 1 less squad on the table, cut 100 points out of the army.
I don't know. I think the only way you
might
can
make
do
them
it
too
is
weak.
hit battle tactics. No, I think if you look at all the top armies, it's all the armies that can leverage battle tactics really effectively. I
Yeah.
think you have to do something very radical that, sure, it'll hit them, but it'll also hit everyone else. And something radical would be if you do a faction battle tactic, it's only 1 point.
I don't love it,
So
but
so it doesn't mess up your tiebreakers, right? It doesn't mess up your tiebreakers in the sense that if you tie with someone at a tournament, the people start looking at battle tactics and go, "Oh, you scored 5 to their 4, so you get ahead," and they don't.
it's just
They'll
going to
still do
create
that, but it might hamstring you in the game. If
but
you
it's just going to
do
create a
faction battle
situation
tactic.
where some armies just get better at tactics than others, which you're just creating the same situation again, right? Like conceptually,
No,
it's
I
the
don't
same
think
problem.
so. I think between the choice of team being 1 point ahead than your opponent, because if I have to do a harder battle tactic for 2 points and put myself in really uncomfortable positions on the board, if you can take advantage of that with 1 lesser point, but that having, because right now what's happening is they're doing everything very comfortably in their comfort zone, and they're not getting outside their comfort zone because they can score their battle tactics comfortably in their comfort zone. Once you take that out, then they have a real thing going on. Like, do I want to guarantee myself tiebreakers and score low this round, or do I want to do risky stuff and then get ahead on points, or at least equal?
I'm not saying it wouldn't work, and I'm not saying it wouldn't create some interesting choices. What I'm saying is it's a problem fundamental to battle tactics, right? It's like
Yeah, of course.
some armies
The
having
system's
good tactics and some armies having bad tactics. It's just the same problem, but affecting different armies. It's like just a seesaw of balance, which I don't like. But maybe they just nerf one of the tactics for Caradron. But their win rate is ridiculously high right now. It's like 60 plus, right? So there's something coming down the pipe for Caradron, I bet. Even if they're not winning every GT, it's like armies shouldn't be at that high of a win rate. It's too much.
Yep.
MacTac says just eliminate book battle tactics, then everyone knows the battle tactics and it's easier to control from a balance scenario. You can't do that, unfortunately, because some armies don't have wizards, and then they can't score two of the 8 battle tactics that are in the GHB. So it's just an impossible problem to solve because of the design of everything. It's inherent to the design of battle tactics. I think the solution is
inherent
just
to the
get rid
design of
them.
battle tactics and how they've designed seasonal secondaries. Like,
Yeah.
if they did something like 40k, where we have a list of like 18 or 20 secondaries that you can try and do, it'd be very different.
Don't worry, Oliphant. I got used to it a long time ago.
All right, Blades of Corn. I don't even know what you would nerf. I think the thing to nerf in Blades of Corn would be, given the fact that their allegiance abilities are the way they are with Blood Tide, there are 2 things you have to do. 1, no wizards allowed whatsoever.
I would agree.
If you can't take other than Archaon, because he's like the War Master of Chaos, you can't take any wizards in your army. Maybe Be'lakor. I could see Be'lakor as an exception.
I'm tired of Be'lakor. I'm just tired of him.
Sure, but like Archaon and Be'lakor allowed, no other wizards allowed. B, all your chaff has to go up. Blood Reavers can't be 80 points in an army that's generating Blood Tide. Magor's Fiends, that is generating you 2 Blood Tide for 120 because they're summoning a free Unbind with it. If this was a Stormcast warband, this would be 220 points. It should at least be like 170, 180. You're effectively getting 2 different units for 120, which is insane.
Those units, and those are not useless units, and having more units is actually really good this season with how battle tactics work.
And I thought Magor's Fiends was like, because it's 3 Blood Warriors on the summon Fleshhound, right? I thought it was like 2 Wound Blood Warriors. No, they're 3 Wound Blood Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's a 10 wound screen almost. So it's like, why is this 120 on a 3-up save? Like, ugh.
Yeah, personally, I would change it so that one of the things I would change is make the prayers less reliable, because Khorne is enjoying very, very reliable buffing, and their buffs are so good that maybe they shouldn't be that reliable. So I would make it so that you only reroll prayers for the model that's garrisoning the terrain. That's how I would change it. Because when they can't reliably combo prayers together, like that's the really disgusting thing, is like Killer Instinct into a Bloodbind or into a Blood Boil or something, and you're reliably getting both of those off because you can reroll. I think that might be the way.
Skaven,
the bells too cheap,
the
right?
bell spam too cheap. Yep.
Everything else is
now that they can move. Now that they can move on their own, they're probably too cheap.
Yeah.
The
new flesh eaters, not the old one.
I
think
the only thing I would change is the delusion stacks. That's it.
There's definitely a Rada, and some stuff is undercosted. Like Archregent.
Archregent could be too efficient. Yeah. You're gonna see one of him sometimes too. So
yeah, I think Morbeg Knights might be too efficient, but I don't think spamming them is any good. I think a unit of 6 is going to be in every list, but changing their points doesn't really change anything because I don't think spamming them is good, right? So
Yeah.
maybe they're okay. Archregent's definitely too efficient.
Maybe Beast Flayers need to go up. I think.
Beast Flayers and
Flayers
Chalice. Beast Flayers and Chalice,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Chalice could be like a 70-point spell,
Mhm.
actually.
Chalice is the best endless spell in the game. There's no reason it should
Yeah.
be 50 points. As long as you need line of sight to dispel, that is the best endless spell. Bone Reapers, they're still, despite the meta kind of accounting for them now, they're such a problem for a lot of armies to deal with.
They're a mid-table bully now, like solid.
Yeah.
Like any pure honest like Warhammer army in the mid-table, like Slays to Darkness or like Iron Jaws, they can just bully with 4 Margas and Arcane. And I think the solution to that is to change Null Myriad to be like a 3-up or a 4-up, and then you split the points to where Margas are +10.
Yeah.
And then and you can actually now that I say this, because when the book came out, it was like you had a Mortisguard at the 200, Stalkers at 230, Morghast at 240. I think I don't quote me on this. Madigan will probably correct me later if I type this in the chat. But it's like I think what they could go with is like 230 or 240 for Morghast because of that always off command abilities, turning off ability. 210 for Stalkers because they've nerfed the reanimation on those.
Mhm.
And then 220 for Mortisguard because they're 3-up saves.
Yeah.
So I think you could adjust the points on some of their hammer units now, because right now everything's the same, so the internal balance is like completely whack. But now that the reanimation has been reduced significantly, you can change that, I think.
They remind me of Stormcast before they nerfed Thunderbolt Volley, where it was like it's just not fun to play against unless you have very specific tools. And that might be the reason they get nerfed. Not because of any balance issues, because I don't think they're a problem at top tables. Like when you're 2 skilled players going at it, I don't think OBR are imbalanced. They've got really big weaknesses in mobility and just running out of units, like unit count. So any changes they make would have to be very careful to make sure they don't just crater. Gits, Squigs. Squigs are too efficient, right? 72 wounds on a 5-up ward that revives and then comes back. It's just too much. It's one of these mid-table bullies again. So I think you saw the comment finally.
Mm-hmm.
It's all good fun. Don't worry, man. Yeah, so I think Gits are just, the Squigs are a little too efficient. I don't think there's any reason Squigs on 25 mil bases should be 2 wounds. That was a mistake, I think. Should have been 1 wound.
There aren't 25s?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. They are 25s. Yeah, you're right.
Blood Reavers on 32s are 1 wound. Squigs are 2. For buffs,
They've given up on that.
is it time to buff Daughters of
No,
Cain?
there are 32s. There aren't 32s, man.
Are they?
Bloodguard Bounders? The Squigs?
No,
you talk about
Squig
Squig Herd.
Herd, yeah.
Oh, Squig Herd. Yeah, Squig Herd's on it. 25s, yeah.
So is it time to buff Daughters of Cain, finally? There's like nobody playing them anymore.
What would you even buff, really? I think that army is like a back to formula army.
Cauldrons, shrines,
would that help?
Maybe 100-point witches, right? Like, and the level of recursion we have right now, it's probably fine.
Would it help? I don't think so. I think they just bad on defense on any turn that isn't their own. That's the problem.
You just got to give them more stuff. They're doing tactics well. They're losing the battle, and that's causing them to lose the war.
Cauldrons you could make cheaper since they don't. I guess they don't benefit from lookouts anymore.
Yeah.
Or they never did, but they're pretty weak. I mean, I think that army is just a fundamental design problem. It's like Idneth. Like whatever you give them, eventually it'll just devolve into some archetype of like what Idneth is doing with Shark Spam. It'll just become like Witch Elf Spam, or like what Dale was doing, where he's bringing like 5 Avatar Arcanes or something.
Yeah.
And just running amok with those guys. So it's fine.
Unlike the Shark Spam, though, witches move 6. They can run and charge, sure. But they move 6. They don't shoot. They're not flying. Like, it's very obvious where they're going and what they're doing. They don't teleport. They can't retreat and charge. They don't have high tide. Like, it's just a lot more honest. So I think if witch spam becomes a thing, it's probably okay. I just let my cat in, and now she wants to get out. Give me a second. Okay. Fire Slayers haven't been relevant in a while, right? They're just too slow. Their tactics are not conducive to this season because there's a lot of turns where you don't get to fight. And if Fire Slayers don't get to fight, you don't score tactics. So, not great. Mm-hmm. Probably need some point reductions. Just give them more stuff. I can't see any other way to fix them. Lumineth. How would you change Lumineth? What would you do for them? Because
I have no idea. I really have no idea.
they're in a weird spot, man. Really weird spot. Their tactics are
I mean, they
fine.
have. The tactics are okay. I think it's just the army doesn't do damage. Like the most successful list was I think John, and he was running Alumnia, which is an RE count is 2. He was basically playing stand on circles.
Yeah. Nobody likes playing against that. It's
Yeah.
counts as 60 models on objectives. Okay, great. Coalesced. Got a nerf Starborn, got a buff Coalesced, right? That's the play.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stormcast. It's hard to say we should buff Stormcast given that you just went 5-0 and another guy went 4-0 at LVO. But aside from Vexilors, I don't think there's enough in there to reliably go 5-0 for us.
It's I think it's everything that's above 250 points did come down.
Storm Drakes, Karazai, Ionus,
Sauron,
How is the Toralon so expensive still? Oh my god. Bastion.
Adrasta, Bastion.
So much stuff that's just overpriced. How is Bastion still 300 points? It's been 3 years. Bastion's still 300. That's crazy. That's crazy. Do you?
My guess is, I guess they're afraid. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's good, man. Go. They're afraid of what?
I think it's the 4-up ward and ally. It's like the Celestial Prime effect. They don't want Bastion in other armies.
Oh man, I hope that's not why. Really hope that's
It
not
could
why. Yeah. Beasts of Chaos. I have no idea how to change them. How are they doing on tactics right now? Do you play against a lot of beasts?
They're okay, but they're a one-trick pony. You know, bull gores in your face, lots of gores in your face, and if you can withstand the assault and double them, the game's over.
Yeah, so like bottom table bullies, basically.
Yeah, it's the ultimate like deep strike army, ambush army. If you know how to play against an ambush and you can withstand the assault, like yeah, it's not great. Plus, they have to give up so much of the board to be able to do that you can actually zone them out pretty well.
Slaanesh is struggling, which is strange because they went from like insanely good in the stats to like one of the worst armies.
Yep.
I don't want them to buff Blissbarb archers, but if that's what it takes to make them good again, they should do it, right? I don't want that army to be bad. Night Haunt, point cuts. They have 150.1 spell wizards. Like, why does that exist in this game when there are 150.2 spell wizards now? Like, it just shouldn't exist. So,
I think they're cost for ethereal more than anything.
Yeah,
everything is.
It's crazy. How 10 infantry for like 170 points. That is just crazy how expensive that army is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, all of those are pretty obvious that they'd get buffed, I think. But these ones I'm a little uncertain. Like, Sylvaneth are good, but they're not getting the results that would indicate that they're that good of an army. And I think it's just like, sometimes they don't cast the Hive, and then they fail all their charges, and then they get doubled, right? Like, do you think they need to be buffed to account for that? Or would that make them too good?
I can't say.
Yeah. Tzeentch has the same problem. Sometimes they just fail Magical Mayhem, and then they fail a tactic, and that's the end of the game. Right.
Tzeentch I could see taking buffs after all this time. They have great tactics, and it's a good control army, but I think there's a lot of anti-magic going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of range shooting going on. There's a lot of anti-magic going on, which is bad. Every time that happens, Tzeentch gets bad.
I can see that. Nurgle's doing really well, despite not being the best in stats. They're like one of the things we consider when we think about lists right now. Mostly the Glutkin, right? That's a huge thing that you have to consider. How are you going to take down and deal with the Glutkin? The Bile Piper is absurdly good. It's like borderline too good, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe just leave Nurgle the way it is. Like, same with Orcs. Like, Big One, all this stuff is doing fine.
It's fine. I think Nurgle. I think if Bile Piper ever becomes a problem, they can just up the points on him or something. But I think Nurgle is.
I don't think they can because he just gets summoned in.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Maybe Plague Bearers are too efficient, but again, you can't nerf points on that army. It's just not doing that well.
Yeah. Same with Orcs. Like, I don't know what I would possibly change in Orcs. Like, I know I said not to change battle tactics, but maybe Big Wash shouldn't be able to score both of the new tactics they added over the summer. Like maybe that could change. Slaves, I don't know what to do to help that army. People aren't spamming Splintered Fang, so come back to me when you are, and then we can talk about balance. Like that's the best thing your army can do, and you're not doing it. So, yeah. Soul Blight, did they nerf it too much? Should it be buffed?
I don't know. A zombie's made it to 5. What do you think?
Yeah, it's fine. It's probably fine.
I think that's an internal balance problem. I think the vampires in that book are too weak. I think the summonable stuff is way too strong.
I can see that. Yeah, like Legion of Blood should be a valid way to play, or Castellai, but they're just not. They're just too weak.
Or Avengary, you know. Avengary isn't a bad faction. It's just so outshone by Virkos and Legion of Night.
Yeah. Nothing really beats teleporting your opponent's turn. It's so ridiculous. I've got orcs here twice, so we'll ignore that. And then Sons of Bahamut. Gargants are fine. They're never great. They're never weak. They're always just fine. And this is a good place for them to be. Remember the start of 3rd edition where they were just the army, and we always had to consider them every time?
Maybe I could see Gargants taking a buff into the point where, like, you bring 4 megas and could somehow fit a little in there. Like, if your Gargant composition changed for King Broad Stomp, you could put a little War Stomper in there.
Maybe if you take, like, the weaker Gargants, like one of the Kraken Eaters. Maybe if you take 4 Kraken Eaters, you can take a little guy as well. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, or even like, because right now, what's the list? It's Gatebreaker, War Stomper, Broad.
Yeah.
If you replace 2 Gatebreakers with, you know, either War Stompers or Kraken Eaters, I think being able to take a little, I think that would work.
Yeah, I could see it. It would be fine because they're not too weak though. Like if nothing happens in Sons of Bahamut players, I don't think they'll be too upset. Like they're having a good time. They're always having a better time than I am playing Stormcast and like measuring threat ranges and all this stuff super carefully. All right. So yeah, hopefully that'll happen in the Battlescroll sometime this month. Maybe we don't know. We'll find out. It could be next week. Could be this week. We'll find out. All right, let's go through the Ionus painting contest. You still got some time?
I think I have to leave in like 10 minutes, but
okay.
I think I'm just gonna drop because I have a trip this evening that I have to make. So I'll have to pack up for that and stuff.
Okay, cool, dude. Thanks for coming. And
yeah, and
I'll see you around.
Yeah, let me. I'll just say congrats to the winners beforehand. I haven't seen it yet, but I think I have a pretty good idea who's gonna win. So
this was ridiculously hard to judge.
Yes, all these submissions were quite good. So.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do my best to be excited about all of these. All right, thanks for coming, buddy.
Yeah,
see you around.
Bye.
All right, chat, just me and you today, hanging out. Let's shrink this down. I promise I will get better at this streaming thing at some point. There we go. That looks good, right? Okay. Hidan Gore in the chat. Everything being 1 wound in Night Haunt is so hard. Yeah, it's tough because that army's 4 up ethereal, right? So against everything, you're effectively 2 wounds per model. No matter what the rend is, if they're rend 3 or rend 1, your effective health stays the same. And then you can get 5 up wards, which are an effective health multiplier. So you're effectively 3 wounds per model instead. And then when you add recursion onto that, which you have with the Spirit Torment, he revives 3 models per turn. It's a really hard balancing act. And it seems like at some point, maybe they were a little too conservative with it, given how powerful the game became. But if you weren't around at the start of the edition, when Night Haunt got their book initially, they were the best army in the game. Like, people were legit worried about playing them. They had all these tricks that people were worried about. They had weaknesses, but their strengths were so prominent that we ended up actually making a how to counter Night Haunt video. And it's hard to imagine that now, them being such a scary army. But the game was actually quite different a year and a half ago. Before all the power creep last year set in, Night Haunt were a legitimately strong army. And it seems like the second half of the Battle Tome, starting in 2023, they were just so much stronger than the previous year. So it was like, look at the recursion we have now in Flesh Eaters. They get to revive whole units, bring them back up from half strength all the way to full strength, and they get to revive models in units as well. Like, the recursion has gotten out of control since Night Haunt. So yeah, Okay, so last topic of the day, we are going to talk about our Painting Ionus contest. So we really like the Ionus model, and we love his rules. And we had heard from a little bird that Ionus was going up for sale individually in January. So we planned to put this out. Now, unfortunately, he came out a couple weeks after we thought. We thought he'd be out a little bit sooner. But we wanted to do a Painting Ionus contest. And we were just blown away by the entries. We had so many spectacular paint jobs that this was the hardest contest we've ever had to judge. And the prizes for this, we went a little bit different on our prizes. Normally, we would offer a bunch of different Stormcast units. This month, we offered up a pack of dice and these custom battle tactic cards for the GHB. These are something we've been trying to get pushed with from Kaiju Gaming Lounge. He made these really awesome looking cards. I've only got 2 of the 8 shown here, but there's a whole pack for the whole thing. And we honestly didn't we thought people would probably want models instead. So we were really surprised by how many entries we got, and just how passionate people were. And we got a lot of good feedback about the prizes too. So cool. The entries were unreal. Like, I knew this is a great model. It really lends itself to being painted very easily. It makes you look like a pro painter even if you're not. But if you are a good painter, then it's like next level stuff. Like you can see James here, who is a buddy of mine. He's on the podcast sometimes. He's got an Ionus painted, and it's gorgeous. Like the metal plating, there's so much opportunity to express your skill, no matter what skill level you're at with painting, and that's what I really like about this model. So, before I go into the honorable mentions and the finalists, if you guys have time, check out the Painting Ionus channel in our Discord server. Just scroll through it. It's amazing. All the entries are amazing. It was really, really hard to pick any number of winners. Yeah, very, very difficult. A lot of great painters. So let's start off with some honorable mentions. So we've got Irish Monkey here with this gorgeous green transition. Let me hide this Discord pop out. Bam. Okay. So Irish Monkey has this beautiful green transition. He's got this awesome spiky red mace. He's got purple and yellow worked in there, which complements the kind of tarnished gold that he picked for all the armor on the dragon. And it's on this like beautiful green field. So the color composition, the palette is very specific. It's got little hints of red on there just to make sure it's not too neutral it's not too cold with all the dark greens. Really well done. Just technically very impressive, very sharp highlighting, good color composition, really well done fades on all the metal. Just excellent work. Really, really big fan of this one. Our next honorable mention is from, I believe I pronounced this right once, and I don't know if I'm going to get it right this time, so I'm sorry if I don't get it right. C-Asian, something like that. This beautiful purple color scheme, and the wings have this gorgeous transition across them, like almost like you're watching a shimmering puddle with oil in it. But it's just beautiful. The fine lining on the cloak is really well done. It just looks like a dragon that comes from the realm of death, and that's really embodying the story very well. So technically very well done, very sharp highlights, good color scheme, nice black scales coming off his head, but then you've got this blue and purple on the wings. It just looks really, really good. I'm a big fan of this one. Yeah. Our next 2 honorable mentions come from Sir Mercury, who has really gone all out with the base, adding in a custom plinth with chains and grass, making it look like this is the top of a broken down tower, and he's just landed here, this precarious and useful position on a battlefield, which adds a whole nother element to the story of this model. But in addition to that, he's just done a beautiful job on the painting. He's got this gorgeous fade from this red to a pink to a white on the wings, and it looks really good. All the fine details come out. He's got this very tarnished bronze, which is quite fitting for a model, again, that comes from the realm of death and is looking for lost souls. So this is a really well done piece. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. There's so many beautiful entries, guys. It's really hard to pick which one should be the winners. We've got another great entry here from Trishula, who went all out with this lighting effect on the Relictor Maul. And it's lighting up the whole model. From above, you've got a nice blue lighting effect, and then from below, he's got this pit of lava, so that's lighting the model up from below. And in between, he's got this gorgeous green transition fade on the wings from a darker green to a lighter green with brown tones for the, what would you even call those? The spines on the wings. The metal is really well done. It's just everything is really nice. And then he's also glued on little bits of lightning coming off of it to make it look like he's zapping stuff with these lightning charges. So just fantastic all around. Trishula is no stranger to our contests. He's a regular on our server. Moving into our third place, we have an entry from the Stro, which is not a regular name that we see on our podcast. He has done a beautiful job with this Ionus. The sharp, like high contrasting red from the pale purples and silvers and blacks really gives this just an amazing composition. Sometimes you'll see like black and white photos and people will keep one element colored throughout. Like they'll have like a highlighted, if you've ever seen like a film noir, it's got like a woman and she's wearing a red dress and just the red dress is red. Everything else is black and white. And this kind of gives me that feeling where everything is so desaturated, but then you've got this bright red cloak that comes into the piece right in the middle, and it just really pops. The metal is done very well. The wings are beautiful. The interior of the wings is a completely different color scheme, giving more of this pallid, tired looking dragon. The story behind the dragon, whose name escapes me right now, is that Ionus and this dragon have been going through the realm of death for a while, and they've spent so much time around the Shaiish Nadir, which is this like central pool that's pulling all of the underworlds of Shaiish towards it. It's basically like a super death vortex, and they've just kind of been swimming around there, and it has artificially sped up his lifespan. So even though all the storm drakes are canonically very young, like they're all quite young creatures, they've been in this like little pocket dimension with the Slan being raised. This guy is the oldest of them, I think probably the oldest, because his lifespan has been shortened by being near that ultra death vortex. So that's quite fitting to go on top of, to be the mount for the Lord Relictor, the Arch Relictor of Sigmar. And the pallid color tones really sell that to me here. You can see the base is also looking decayed and rotting like he is in Shaiish. He's been dealing with this. It's very grim, very dark color scheme, and technically very well done. So congratulations, the Strach. I can't pronounce names. But congratulations. It looks really, really good, man. Hopefully we'll see more from you in the future. Second place goes to local mad lad MacTac, who I believe was the winner of our previous contest. I'd have to double check that now that I said it. But congratulations to him. He has he went for very pale tones. He's got purple undertones, pink robes, adding this kind of fuchsia element to tie it all together. But he went above and beyond, and he added this swirling pool of souls underneath it. And I can't really show it here because I have it on a PDF, but this pool actually swirls and has a lighting effect, and it's meant to replicate the pool of souls in the Hercules Disney movie, and it's so cool. Like seriously, take 2 minutes, go into our server, find it in the Painting Ionus channel. This is such a cool effect. And not only has he added this lighting, everything is kind of lit up by it in terms of the paint job too. So even when the light isn't on, everything is painted as if it was turned on. So it's a good static piece, but then when you turn the light on and it's got this cool swirling effect, really spectacular. The color composition is great too, right? Having fuchsia tones on top of purple undertones looks really good when you have a pale white dragon. The gold that you've chosen to do is this nice pale gold as well. Very fitting for a dragon that would be in the realm of death. So really spectacular stuff. Maybe I can finagle onto the stream. Give me a second here, guys. I'll try to get this working. I really want you guys to see this swirling effect that I'm talking about. Okay, let's see if I can download that. Just got to add in 1 second, guys. Sorry. No, Windows, I don't want to update. Okay, let me see if I can put this into Streamlabs real quick, and then you guys can see what I'm talking about. Just add. Oh, that's... I think I got it. Let me know if you guys can see this. It's sideways. That's how he took the video. It's not my fault. I can't rotate it. Okay. Let me know if you guys can see this. I'll be watching the chat. And it's got a little motor in there. And you can see the swirling souls going around. This is so freaking cool. I was a big fan of the Hercules movie as a kid, and I saw this and I immediately recognized it. This is just so freaking cool. So, yeah, congratulations, MacTac. This is a spectacular model. I would love to play against this. This would be so much fun. Even if I lost, I would have a great time. Just so cool. One more time. Look at that. Hope that swirl is coming through properly on the stream. That's so sick. It's so cool. And our first place goes to Sissy Hammer, which sure is a name. Congratulations. The color composition on this is spectacular. Every color is done very well. The fade on the metals is done excellently. There's so much color, and it just pops so much more than all the other ones we've seen. Everything is highlighted very well. I love the hints of green throughout. Like, you've got the oxide on the metal. You've got the green glowing skull face mask, and then in his relictor lantern thing, he's got like another green glowing skull. So that's awesome. He's got the green tongue. There's like little hints everywhere throughout the model that are all really well done. And this patterning on the wings is just so distinct. It looks like the life is being drained out of this dragon, which is very fitting for this underworld story that this model has going on. You can see the little candles above above Ionus are lit, and there's a little bit of source lighting there just to make it look like they're glowing a little bit. The book is even highlighted immaculately. Really, really well done. Yeah, exactly, Trevor. It's like he has a, what do you call it? The vitiligo, if that's how you pronounce it. It's really cool. It's not something you see very often on models. The color scheme is great. Like the red transition on the scales into a dark blue into a lighter blue, and then very fine highlights. It's really tough to make like red-blue transitions work, but he's done a fantastic job here. You can see every one of the scales has like little tick marks. Like, this is all technically very well done. It has a great color palette. And then the base also, I'm a big sucker for like really well done bases, but like not overdone, you know? And this hits the right mark here. Like, it's just enough snow. It's just enough tufts. It adds to the story. The way the snow goes up the base and where it's positioned, it all was done with thought, and it looks fantastic. So congratulations to our good friend Sissy Hammer for winning the contest. This is very well done. And I am back. Great. So the last thing I want to end off the stream, I just want to see how my poll is doing. I've been curious about what people think about the new Flesh Eaters. Stuck at work. I thought I'd check in. Oh, no problem, Sissy. You did a great job, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I hope so. So checking in on Flesh Eaters, it looks like most people think they're an A-tier army. I think you guys are underrating it. I think Flesh Eaters are legitimately S-tier. I think they're too strong. I think they are too strong of an army right now. The way they trade and win the game and then resummon things, they're just doing it all a little bit too efficiently, I think. We'll see if I'm right about that, but well, obviously I think I'm right. Okay, last thing, I want to announce our Painting Knight Vexillor contest. In honor of Mergant going 5-0 and our other good Stormcast around the world taking Knight Vexillors to great success, we thought we would give them a special month just to honor them. Turns out they were S tier all along. And we're hoping they don't get nerfed, because that would be sad. But hey, it's funny too, so it kind of, that works too. Our prizes this month are, courtesy of Kaiju Gaming Lounge, are going to be a Krondis, Annihilators, and Griffhounds. So big prize pool coming up this month. The contest closes February 29th. That's the last day of the month, so there's an extra day this year as opposed to the previous 2 years. So there's no excuses this time. And you just have to paint one model. All you have to do is paint one Vexillor, and you get it. Do we ship prizes to France? I don't know if we ship them to France, but what we might do in that case is just send you the equivalent value over some payment service that you would prefer. We've had people win in like the middle of the mountains in Sweden. Like it's really tough to get stuff out there, but we've had winners and we figured out ways to get them prizes. So yeah, this competition is open internationally. There's no restrictions on that. So yeah, if you have a Knight Vexillor, or if you're just looking for an excuse to paint a Knight Vexillor, any of the Vexillors are good. It could be, you know, the ones from first edition, or it could be the new one from the Dominion box, or it could even be like a kit bashed one that just looks really cool. We are okay with reasonable proxies. So feel free to post your model in the Painting Vexillor channel in the Discord server. It's right up at the top of the list. You can find it very easily. And there's my Knight Vexillor as well, if anybody is curious. I've added mine. So it's a great model. I'm looking forward to reading the Battlescroll and reading that it got nerfed. I'm pretty sure it's going to get nerfed. It's not fun to play against that many mortal wounds. So even if it's not overpowered, it might just be one of those not fun things that has to go. So either we're giving it a salute, like one final send off, or we're just celebrating how good they are and how we've been sleeping on them. Either way, it's fun. We're also considering, maybe not for this contest, but we've definitely gotten some feedback that our painting contest might feel too intimidating for people. Like, you might not be the best painter in the world, but you still want to enter. You should totally enter. Like, the point of them isn't necessarily to win the prizes. It's just to paint models with people, have discussions, and foster a community. And to help with that, we're thinking of some things behind the scenes that might help encourage people to not be intimidated. I don't want to announce anything yet because I don't want to be held to promises later, but that is definitely something we're thinking about. The point of these contests is not to have exceptional, like, Instagram professionals win every single time. The point is just to have fun painting models together. So we're looking at that. So that's it for the live stream. I think that's all I had planned, and it didn't go 3 hours like usual. Kept it nice and lean this time. So I want to thank John Corbier for coming on to talk about his list and his experiences at LVO. Thanks Mergonk for coming on and doing this live stream with me. Thanks for everybody at the Stormkeep for working behind the scenes to make this all happen. Thank you everybody on the Stormkeep Discord server for all of your discussion on helping us refine the Cometfall list. The conversations have been extremely useful. We're not the only ones playing this kind of list. We've been workshopping it with a number of people on our server, so thank you everybody who's been helping out with it. And thank you, chat, for tuning in and watching us live. I'm really always amazed that people find this content entertaining. Thank you for tuning in and listening to us ramble. And there's a lot of content coming in February, so look forward to it. I've got a lot of ideas for videos. So with that, I am going to sign off. And you guys have yourselves a great night or great day or whatever time zone you're in. We'll see you in the